What is it, senior apprentice brother Long Chin? Wang Mang, who was busy directing everyone, hastily ran over. If we continue like this, how much can we get after 3 days? Asked Long Chin. That's a bit difficult to say. But in the previous generation, which was when I came, each person obtained plenty of points after exchanging the Nadens with the Dao sect. For an outer sect disciple like me, that amount would take me 5 years of hard work to obtain normally, said Wang Mang. It must have cost you a great deal to get such a job, correct? Long Chen made a gesture with his hand, meaning money. Long Chen had seen this kind of routine many times. Yes, the only reason I could get this mission was because of the help from the law enforcement hall. So, senior apprentice brother Long Chen, I truly am sorry, said Wang Mang. I've already said not to bring up that matter again. As long as you don't make yourself my enemy, I won't make things hard on you. If you want to follow me, I also won't treat you badly, said Long Chen directly. He could see that Wang Mang had many misgivings and was afraid he would make things hard on him in the Central Plains. Then he would really be doomed. But in Long Chen's opinion, he had just been used by others, and he could forgive that. If he wanted to join him, then he wouldn't be petty. Everyone could talk openly. Junior disciple greatly admires senior apprentice brother's magnanimity. If the positions were reversed, I wouldn't be able to have such an attitude, said Wang Mang. After talking with Long Chen for this long, he sensed that Long Chen seemed to have the bearing of a king. He didn't put on airs, nor did he boss around others. Instead, he would occasionally joke and curse with the Dragon Blood warriors rather coarsely. But the more he acted that way, the more magnanimous he appeared. He was different from the experts Wang Mang had seen in the past. Long Chen possessed a kind of charisma that won him over. Let's get to the important topic. 7th-rank Nadens should be more valuable than 6th-rank ones. Why not draw over more powerful sea demons? Asked Long Chen. It's not that we don't want to, but that we can't. Sea demons normally have their own range of movement. If they don't smell blood, they won't be drawn over. So our profit is mostly up to luck, said Wang Mang. That's what it was? Then if we ended up drawing 8th-rank sea demons, or even 9th-rank sea demons, what would happen? Asked Long Chen. That's impossible. 8th-rank sea demons rarely appear, and 9th-rank sea demons are on the level of a king, said Wang Mang. Be quieter. Just tell me what would happen in that situation, said Long Chen. 8th-rank sea demons we can handle, but if a 9th-rank sea demon appears, Elder Shah won't just stand still. He'll end up taking action, said Wang Mang. Then what about the Naiden? Asked Long Chen quietly. According to the rules, everything obtained through the hunting is for the disciples. Even if the elder had to interfere, he cannot share in the profit. Senior apprentice brother, Wang Mang nervously stared at Long Chen. That's enough. There's nothing else, so just peacefully get rich. Don't talk too much. Long Chen's mind sank into the primal chaos space. He quickly picked over 10 medicinal ingredients. Refining them into powder, he also stealthily drew in some essence blood from the sea demons, using the earth flame to refine a special medicinal pill. This pill had no tear. It was Long Chen's own invention, and it didn't really have any value. But it could completely activate the power of the essence blood, and once it was tossed into the water, sea demons would all be drawn by the scent of the essence blood. Long Chen looked at the indifferent Elder Shah. A mischievous glint appeared in his eyes. If he had access to such a powerful helper, he should use it. Stealthily dropping the medicinal pill into the sea, he saw that no one noticed his actions. The medicinal pill dissolved and an invisible fluctuation spread. After completing this, Long Chen nonchalantly returned to the front of the bow. That was where Elder Shah was standing, so no one else dared to approach. But Long Chen did. Elder Shah, disciple has something he wishes to ask you. Do you recognize this? Long Chen handed a violet jade pendant to Elder Shah. Elder Shah received it. His pupils shrank. 9-line soul calming jade? And the most precious violet jade one. There's a formation within the jade. This is, Elder Shah's old hand lit up, shining the light onto the jade pendant. Long Chen saw countless speckles appear on the pendant. Although Long Chen didn't understand such things, he knew this was a kind of complicated formation. Does Senior know its origin? asked Long Chen, his heart skipping a few beats. Elder Sha shook his head. This formation is too complicated. I've never seen it before, and I can't tell its origin. But this jade pendant is not something an ordinary family or power could possess. 9 lines is a representation of status, and considering the violet jade's quality, whatever power it came from is probably something that exceeds your imagination. Elder Sha looked at Long Chen. He had an urge to say something, but in the end, he kept his mouth shut. He returned the pendant back to Long Chen and returned to his indifferent appearance. Long Chen sighed inside. It seemed even Elder Sha's knowledge was limited, but he had still learned a bit. Elder Sha, could you perhaps refer me to a certain direction? Probed Long Chen. The world is large. It requires you to walk it with your own feet. What difference is there whether I answer you or not? Said Elder Sha lightly. Long Chen bitterly smiled. But his words were right. For him to learn about this now didn't really have any meaning. Once he reached that level, he would naturally learn the truth. Before he reached that level, what was the point of knowing? Elder Sha was clearly telling him that he didn't have the qualifications to know such things. Furthermore, Elder Sha strictly followed the rules. He didn't like trouble, and although he had questions inside, he didn't ask them. Of course, that was the main reason Long Chen dared to ask Elder Sha about this. Because Elder Sha's mouth was kept tightly shut, making it safe. Originally, Long Chen had wanted to continue questioning Elder Sha and see if he could learn about the structure of the entire Martial Heaven continent and the distribution of powers, but this reply of Elder Sha's clearly showed that asking would be useless. Many thanks, Elder Sha. Long Chen bowed slightly. Just as he turned to leave, Elder Sha opened his mouth once more. Let alone the entire Martial Heaven continent, just attempting to stand out within the Shantian Dao sect will be very difficult. If you want to contend for supremacy within the entire continent, you should first set yourself up in the Shantian Dao sect. A complicated expression appeared in Elder Sha's eyes, and he couldn't help but give Long Chen a final warning. Long Chen was startled. Elder Sha didn't like to speak, he hadn't revealed his cultivation base, and he always appeared like a wooden old man, but Long Chen's intuition told him his power was terrifying. Many thanks for senior's pointers, said Long Chen humbly. It wasn't anything important. Once you arrive at the Shantian Dao sect, you'll understand that even if you can dominate the other 4 regions, you still won't have any superiority amongst the Central Plains heavenly geniuses. To sum it up, avoid pride and impatience, avoiding showing off your sharp point, be more evasive and sly, and your journey will be easier, said Elder Sha. Disciple understands. Many thanks. Long Chen bowed. Although Elder Sha was being subtle, his meaning was obvious. Long Chen might be the top amongst the disciples from the Eastern Wasteland, Western Desert, Southern Sea, and Northern Source, but compared to the geniuses from the Central Plains, his foundation was lacking. He was losing right at the starting line. In truth, the reason why the Shantian Dao sect had established branch sects in the 4 outer regions wasn't because they had many hopes for the disciples raised there. To put it frankly, the 4 outer regions' disciples were nothing more than cannon fodder, fireflies to show off the brightness of the moon. Elder Sha was warning him kind-heartedly. He had lived for a long time, and he had seen batch after batch of disciples who had gone to the Central Plains full of hope and passion, only to be given grievous blows from reality. He had seen countless promising geniuses fall one by one. Now he was almost numb to it. It was precisely because he was numb that he didn't have much interest in things anymore. He just did his job, following the rules. Rather than aiming for the best possible result, he just avoided making mistakes. Unfortunately, disciple stubbornness is something you've seen. No one can change me, not even the heavens. Others might find me foolish, but I am not a fish, so I don't know a fish's pleasure. In the same way, others are not me. What I want is to skyrocket, to be the Kuanping that breaks through the restrictions of the heavens. Even if I fail, I won't mind. If I didn't have those guts, living wouldn't have any meaning. However, disciple appreciates elders' kindness. If I have a chance, I will definitely return the favor, said Long Chen. Each person could have their own principles, and all those principles might sound right. But they might not suit you. As an expert, you needed to find your own belief, A truth that you believed in the most, a truth that wouldn't change after 10,000 years, a truth that wouldn't change in life or death. Long Chen's belief was that in his life, he had to go all out. From the day he had cultivated the 9-star Hegemon body art, it was fated that he could not walk the ordinary path. Since he was different from others, why bother taking on their principles? Seeing that Long Chen's thoughts weren't affected at all despite his words, Elder Shah shook his head slightly and remained silent. Heavens, this many 7th-rank sea demons! Suddenly, a startled cry rang out. Countless powerful auras rapidly approached the flying boat. They've finally been baited. Long Chen smiled. Returning to the deck of the boat, he stood with everyone else. Huge waves surged in the sea below. Countless sea demons surged over from all directions, and over half of them were 7th-rank sea demons. "Brothers, the food has come. Hurry and kill them," shouted Wang Mang. Seeing this many 7th-rank sea demons delighted Wang Mang. He thought of his conversation with Long Chen, and seeing his indifferent expression, he knew that these sea demons had something to do with him. 7th-rank sea demons were equivalent to normal sea expansion cultivators. The Dragonblood warriors could kill them easily, and even the Eastern Wastelands disciples were able to kill them without much trouble. With Long Chen's orders, the senior disciples were only in charge of extracting the Nadens, which was extremely simple for them. This way, not even one Naden would be wasted. Although only a portion of the Dragonblood warriors were participating, their terrifying killing power rapidly dyed the sea red. With all the 7th-rank sea demons being killed, Long Chen asked Wild if he wanted them. After all, these sea demons were extremely ugly and strange. No human would want to eat them. But Wild didn't care about that. He said that as long as it was edible, he wanted it. Long Chen had everyone gather the 7th-rank sea demons' corpses when they weren't busy extracting Nadens. Wild wasn't picky about food, so this was an excellent chance to gather rations. As time passed, more and more 7th-rank sea demons appeared. "We're rich!" Wang Mang and the others were ecstatic. They had participated in the hunt last time, but they hadn't encountered this many 7th-rank sea demons back then. In just a few hours, they had gathered more Nadens than what they had had over 3 days back then. This profit made them almost go crazy. As more sea demons appeared, it became harder for everyone. More and more Dragonblood warriors joined in. Elder Shah frowned slightly as he looked at this unending tide of sea demons. He was curious. He had never seen this many 7th-rank sea demons being drawn over during a hunt. Suddenly, a roar rang out. A terrifying pressure caused everyone's hearts to shake. 8th-rank sea demon. Wang Mang and the others were startled, and they hastily formed a formation. A huge figure appeared within the sea and flew into the air. It was a fish with 2 wings. This 3-mile-long fish covered the sun with its wings. Its mouth opened and water arrows rained down on them. Those dark green water arrows whistled over with a space-tearing noise, and they released a nauseating scent. They were clearly poisonous and shouldn't be touched. Collective shield. With Wang Mang, the one with the most experience, in the center of the formation, all the senior disciples formed hand seals. Light barriers manifested, covering everyone. Those light barriers were rapidly blown apart one by one, but in the end, half of them endured. The water arrows were unable to menace them. When the water arrows fell to the sea, quite a few sea demons were struck and their bodies began to emit smoke. The spots struck by the water arrows corroded. "What a terrifying attack!" exclaimed someone. If these water arrows had landed on them, they would have probably been corroded into a skeleton. Although Wang Mang hadn't fought sea demons on the sea before, he had participated in many battles and had plentiful battle experience. Otherwise, even if he had bribed people, he wouldn't have been able to become the leading disciple of this mission. "Everyone, this is a powerful 8th-rank sea demon. We have to work together to handle it. Listen to my directions. First, we dash." Just as he was shouting, a sword image soared into the sky, shaking heaven and earth. It was stunningly beautiful, and like a flash of light, it disappeared in an instant. That huge winged sea demon was cut in half. Blood filled the air and it fell to the sea. Yu Zifeng sheathed his sword. That attack had been from him. Beautiful! Long Chen was the first to praise him. Yu Zifeng was getting stronger and stronger. It seemed Ling Yunzi had given him some pointers, and now that his heavenly Tao energy had been erased, he was even more terrifying. That sword seemed to fill the entire world. It was like there was some invisible power behind it that made it unstoppable, capable of slicing apart heaven and earth. Yu Zifeng was originally a genius of the sword Tao, but through Ling Yunzi's guidance, his comprehension of it had grown even greater. That attack had been full of the specific terror of sword cultivators. Even Elder Shah's expression changed. He hadn't noticed Yu Zifeng before this. Yu Zifeng wasn't very eye-catching, but once he attacked, he instantly killed an 8th rank sea demon, and so easily at that. That made Elder Shah reevaluate Long Chen. Someone with Yu Zifeng's power wouldn't be drowned out even within all the geniuses of the Xintian Dao sect. But such a figure was actually willing to follow Long Chen? Quick! Grab the corpse! Wang Mang and the others were too stunned to react at first. The sea demon's corpse smashed into the sea, causing huge waves. They hastily used magical arts to gather the two halves of its corpse. Looking at the flat and smooth cut, they sucked in a cold gasp. Yu Zifeng's attack was refined to the point that it was unbelievable. The wound was completely straight as if drawn with a ruler, and it was right in the middle. The two halves were the same, and even its bones, which were comparable to treasure items, had been cut cleanly. Such a terrifying attack shocked them. Don't just stare. Another one's coming, said Long Chen. Just at this moment, the sea surged. A huge figure rapidly grew under the water. Die! Gu Yang shouted, and his spear unleashed a mile-long spear image that stabbed into the water. A huge body flew into the air. It was also an 8th rank sea demon. Its head had been pierced by Gu Yang and it was dead. Only once they saw the corpse flying toward the boat did everyone react and dodge. The flying boat was bigger on the inside than the outside. So no matter how big the sea demon was, it would fit. Ridiculous! Wang Mang and the others were stunned. 8th rank sea demons were overlords of the sea in places like this. Even Foundation forging experts would have to go all out to kill them, and there was a chance of being heavily injured in the process or even dying. But Yu Zifeng and Gu Yang each killed them with one blow, and a seemingly simple blow at that. 8th rank sea demons were not things that 7th rank sea demons could compare to. Even their corpses were valuable. However, their nadens were still much, much more valuable. To gain 2 8th rank nadens made the senior disciples almost start dancing. Wild was also close to dancing with joy. Long Chen had said that all the sea demons' corpses would be his. He felt blessed. It seemed he wouldn't have to worry about getting hungry in the future, and he had an urge to start eating right now. Another 8th rank sea demon, shouted someone. But this sea demon wasn't coming at them from the front, but charging out from right below the flying boat. The flying boat was knocked into the air, and countless people were thrown off and forced to hastily summon wings. With the flying boat knocked into the air, Elder Shah decided to keep it floating. That would make it more convenient when the battle started. Someone, go out as bait, said Long Chen. Fighting on the flying boat truly wasn't convenient. Let me. Guoran was the first to fly out and stopped about a mile from the surface of the water. He had only just paused when a huge mouth devoured him, causing Wang Mang and the others to let out startled cries. This show-off. Long Chen was speechless. Even now, he was pursuing his goals. The startled cries were cut short as the 8th rank sea demon's head exploded and a golden armored freak appeared. I swept through the 4 seas, crossed 1,000 mountains, caused huge billows in heaven and earth, slaughtered demons, eliminated devils, plucked the stars and moon. If you want a chivalrous hero, you can come find me, Guoran. If you want to eat me, then we'll have to see if you have the teeth for that, said Guoran flashily. Long Chen face-bombed. Would this fellow die if he didn't show off for a day? There weren't that many outsiders here, so what was the point? It made others feel embarrassed for him. Everyone prepare yourself. More and more sea demons are coming. So far, all we've had is the appetizer, and the full course is coming now. Long Chen could sense countless powerful auras rushing over. Guoran, Gu Yang, Wild, you'll fight at the front lines and draw the sea demon's attention. Meng Qi, Wanner, Zifeng, you'll launch long-distance attacks as support. Wang Mang, you're in charge of gathering the corpses and maidens. When you're busy, make sure to focus on the big targets. Don't drop the melons because you're trying to pick up sesame seeds. As for the others, spread out. Squad leaders, you're in charge of any fish that slip through the net. Those not given a task, help Wang Mang gather the maidens. Remember, we don't care about corpses below the 8th rank. Guoran, Gu Yang, and Wild stood at the front. Guoran should have been placed at the back for support, but he liked to show off, so Long Chen let him. The Dragon Blood warriors quickly spread out, finding the best spots for themselves. They didn't need any direction for that, as after so many life and death battles, they had long since come to a tacit understanding. As for Wang Mang and the others, they were also highly experienced. They quickly found their own positions in accordance with the Dragon Blood warriors. As for the Eastern Wastelands disciples, they were clearly not so organized. They didn't even know where to put themselves. Boom. Suddenly, explosions came from the sea. Huge figures charged out, each one of them as big as a mountain and releasing powerful pressures. They're here. Wang Mang and the others were a bit nervous. Although they were foundation forging experts, they hadn't experienced a battle of this scope. There were over 10 8th-rank sea demons charging at them. However, Long Chen stood indifferently with his hands clasped behind his back. Each one of the Dragon Blood warriors had similarly relaxed postures. They didn't show any nervousness, because they had all experienced even more nerve-wracking battles than this. This little scuffle was nothing. The surface of the water exploded as huge figures charged at them. The first ones they charged at were Gu Yang and the others, as they were the closest. However, because 8th-rank sea demons were so huge, despite the 3 of them having spread out, a few of them charged higher, going directly at Meng Qi and the others. Kill! Guoran shouted, and with a wave of his hand, 3 house-sized spheres flew into the open mouths around him. Their mouths were huge, so no matter how he tossed them, he wouldn't miss. These were his powerful bombs. As his cultivation base grew, his forging efficiency also increased, so it was no longer so painful to toss out his treasures. These cold-blooded sea demons had very low intelligence. Without even understanding what was going on, the bombs exploded in their mouths, causing their heads to explode. Guoran killed 3 8th-rank sea demons in an instant. Although it was a bit lucky, this efficiency was shocking. Gu Yang had also erupted with his full power. Powerful blood qi soared from him, and his spear danced. He killed one in the first instant as well. As for Wild, he had summoned the barbarian blood bronze body. With a single smash of his hammer, he blew a sea demon to smithereens. His power caused the sea demon to explode along with its Niden. Wild, pay more attention. If you hit them like this, you won't get anything. Long Chen was speechless. When would this fellow grow some brains? If he fought this way, its Niden and corpse would be gone. What was the point of this? Oh, what should I do? Grumbled Wild. Go gently. Just hit its head. I'd rather you beat it half dead than make it explode, said Long Chen. Wild's intelligence almost seemed to shrink as he grew stronger. He couldn't even figure out something like this. All right, I'll listen to Brother Long, said Wild. It just so happened that an 8th-rank sea demon was coming for him, and he once more smashed his club down. Blood mist filled the air. Once again, there was nothing left. Wild was dumbfounded. Long Chen almost coughed up blood. The difficulty in having Wild control his power was heaven-defying. Long Chen directly gave up and let him do whatever he wanted. Wild's brute power was appalling. Even Elder Shah was shocked. As the battle unfolded, his shock only grew. Wild, Gu Yang, Yu Zifeng, and all the others were displaying shocking combat power. That was especially true of Wild. His club clearly landed on the sea demons' heads, but it caused their entire bodies to explode. Even their incredibly tough Nadens exploded with them. This was a strange power that Elder Shah had never witnessed before. Wang Mang and the others were first incomparably shocked that Wild had such power. but then they became incomparably distressed. With each smash of his club, another 8th rank Naiden disappeared. They decided to do their best not to look over at Wild, as watching was too painful. Runes circulated around them, transforming into huge hands that constantly gathered the slain 8th rank sea demons. They didn't need to participate in the actual battle. Using their refined control over powerful magical arts, they were extremely adept at gathering the slain sea demons. With 36 of them working together, they barely missed any at all. Originally, they had been a group of 37, but one of them had been tossed out into the eastern wasteland by Eldershaw for saying something was unfair. At the front, Gu Yang, Guoran, and Wild were drawing most of the sea demons. Other sea demons managed to get by them, but the majority of them were 7th rank, and killing them was extremely easy. The occasional 8th rank sea demons that got by would be instantly killed by a few squad leaders working together. Everything went extremely smoothly. Meng Qi and Tang didn't even need to do anything. Long Chen had them look after the group, but right now, no one needed their help. The panicked Eastern Wasteland disciples also began to calm down upon seeing the Dragonblood Legion handle this many sea demons. They found their own positions, occasionally launching an attack. If they didn't have a chance to attack, they used magical arts to help gather corpses. As time went by, the sea demons did not drop in number. Instead, more and more of them appeared, and they only grew stronger. In the beginning, their cultivation bases were only at the early 8th rank. But now mid-8th rank sea demons were appearing. When they appeared, Wild became ecstatic. That was because he found that when he smashed a mid-8th rank sea demon, at least some of their body would survive. Their Naidens were also intact. Wang Mang had been delighted at first to see this many sea demons. They were truly getting rich. But as more 8th rank sea demons appeared, they gradually became afraid. They had killed over 100 8th rank sea demons, and it was starting to be too much. As more and more 8th rank sea demons showed up, they didn't even have time to gather the 7th rank sea demons' Naidens, letting them fall into the sea. The sea was dyed red by the blood of the sea demons. Some corpses sank to the bottom, while some floated on the surface of the water, looking like floating islands, as well as huge burial mounds. Currently, thousands of miles of the sea was dyed red, and countless sea demons were crazily charging forward. Furthermore, their numbers and power only grew. Wang Mang felt a chill. But when he stealthily glanced at Long Chen, he saw that his expression was still calm, as if this intense battle before him was nothing more than a game that he didn't care about. Wang Mang took a deep breath and thanked his luck that he had acted pragmatically. He hadn't fought against Long Chen to the point of you die or I die. Thinking of that, he patted himself on the back for being wise. Long Chen hadn't shown off any shocking attacks. But Gu Yang, Guoran, Yu Zifeng, Wild, and the others were each more shocking than the last. From all this, Wang Mang could tell that Long Chen had to be more terrifying than he imagined. Wang Mang, don't get distracted. You've already lost an 8th rank Naiden, called Long Chen. Oh, sorry. Wang Mang's runic hand had been destroyed by a sea demon, and as a result, an 8th rank sea demon's corpse fell into the sea, lost. Don't be so worried. This is just the opening scene. Once you're accustomed, you'll be fine. Everyone further back, there's no need for you to attack. You should all focus on gathering the corpses. Dragonblood warriors, there's no need to hold back any longer. We've pretty much drawn them all over, so the moment's almost here, said Long Chen. The opening scene? Wang Mang and the others involuntarily shivered. This kind of terrifying battle was just the start? Then what was the main act? Kill to your heart's content. The Dragonblood warriors roared, going all out to slaughter the sea demons. The current sea demons were growing stronger, and even late 8th rank ones began to appear. The Dragonblood warriors were starting to find things difficult. They all activated their spirit blood, each of them crazily attacking, and treasure items flew through the air, along with scarlet blood. With their spirit blood and treasure items, the 8th rank sea demons were rapidly cut down by them. Their corpses tumbled down. Wang Mang and the others were red-eyed. They no longer had time to care about 7th rank sea demons anymore. They had to focus completely on gathering the 8th rank corpses. There were too many, so even Wang Mang and the other Foundation forging disciples found gathering them taxing. Even with the help of the Eastern Wastelands disciples, quite a few corpses fell to the bottom of the sea. Once the corpses fell into the sea, there was no way to bring them out. The heavenly Tao runes that they had condensed into hands could enter the water, but it would exhaust too much of their spiritual yuan. Seeing those corpses falling into the ocean, Wang Mang and the others were filled with pain, but they were helpless. They could only do everything they could to gather the slain 8th-rank sea demons. As the Dragon Blood warriors erupted with power, the number of sea demons didn't drop. But all the sea demons were 8th-rank ones now. They were like a tide, crazily charging forward. The Dragon Blood warriors also seemed to have gone crazy. Each one of them was like a killing god, mercilessly slaughtering the sea demons. Toward the end, Wang Mang and the others were terrified by just looking at them. The Dragon Blood warriors seemed like bloodthirsty fiends, completely different people from the ones who had chatted with them. They were merciless and cold, their killing intent causing their souls to tremble. This was the Dragon Blood warriors' strongest state. That killing intent was something piled up from countless experts' bones. The number of sea demons continued to increase. In the end, their corpses were piled up like mountains on the sea. This shocking scene shook even Elder Shah. He was deeply shocked by what he was seeing. Careful! Suddenly, a huge crab-like sea demon charged in front of a Dragon Blood warrior. It was a late 8th-rank sea demon, and because it was covered in tough armor, it had managed to break through their defenses. Its claws smashed toward the Dragon Blood warrior, causing the others to let out startled cries. The Dragon Blood warrior had only just forced back another sea demon, and there was no one around who could help him. Split the heavens! A blood-red light slashed down, killing the sea demon. The saber image slashed down, killing the heavily armored sea demon. Boss! The Dragon Blood warriors cheered. As soon as Long Chen joined in, he killed a late 8th-rank sea demon. That sea demon's defense had been too powerful with no weak points at all. Once it had charged into the Dragon Blood warriors' midst, it had ruined their formations. Even Gu Yang had been blown back by one of its pincers. How can he use the heaven-splitting battle sex secret technique? Elder Shah instantly saw through the origin of Long Chen's move. That's about enough. Meng Qi, wind things up, said Long Chen. Meng Qi nodded and extended her hands. Forming hand seals, she summoned her soul energy. Soul extermination, life-devouring art. A terrifying spiritual fluctuation spread, instantly covering the entire battlefield. The world seemed to come to a stop. This soul extermination life-devouring art was something she had used once before in the immemorial path. But at that time, she had been using it on fellow humans, and she hadn't used it to its full power. This time, she was using it on the berserk and cold-blooded sea demons. She had no misgivings, and she directly used up over half her spiritual strength to increase its power and range. The invisible ripple caused even the people behind Meng Qi to shiver. Wang Mang and the others felt like their souls were within a terrifying spiritual hand. As long as she wished it, their souls would be destroyed. Now Wang Mang realized how terrifying Meng Qi was. This soul energy was beyond all his expectations. Even with the underworld soul magical armor, he wouldn't be able to block this attack. Thinking of that, cold sweat covered his back. Those fierce sea demons stiffened. They lost their ability to think for a short moment. Meng Qi's soul art was terrifying, but due to spreading it over such a huge area, its power was scattered. It didn't have the power to kill such powerful 8th-rank sea demons. Wind Moon devours the heavens. Tang Wanner's runes circulated, and millions of palm-sized wind blades shot out. This sea of wind blades rapidly spread, releasing ear-piercing sounds that pained people's eardrums. It felt like millions of needles were stabbing them, and other than the Dragon Blood warriors, everyone's expressions changed. They had never seen such terrifying wind blades. This sea of wind blades instantly reached the army of sea demons. Like sharp blades cutting through tofu, the powerful 8th-rank sea demons were instantly killed. Hundreds of 8th-rank sea demons were killed by Meng Qi and Tang Wanner's combination attack. Countless corpses piled up into a mountain, slowly dropping toward the sea. Heaven and earth were deathly silent. Only after a breath's time did Wang Mang and the others hastily order everyone to gather the corpses. Those were money. Before they sank into the sea, they grabbed as many as they could. This attack was too terrifying. All the sea demons had been killed, and they were able to descend closer to the sea to gather the corpses without worrying about being attacked. "Hurry! We should leave quickly," said Elder Shah. Everyone hastily cleaned up the battlefield, but it was just too big. Some of the senior disciples were too greedy to even toss aside the 7th and 6th rank sea demons. Elder Shah frowned, but he also felt leaving behind this many sea demon corpses would be a waste. So he simply waited. "Longchen, what are you smiling about? Why is your smile so evil?" Tangwana looked at Longchen. "Was I smiling?" Longchen shook his head. "You might be able to trick others, but you can't trick me. Speak, what evil plot are you brewing?" Tangwana glared at Longchen, raising a fist. "You're overthinking it. I don't have so many evil thoughts. Well, the battlefield's about cleaned up, so we should return. Don't you see Elder Shah's face is starting to darken? Don't get scolded." Longchen pulled Meng Qi and Tangwana back to the flying boat. Tangwana understood Longchen too well. Seeing that smile on his face, she knew he was up to something. But if he refused to say, there was nothing she could do. There were too many people, so she was too embarrassed to beat him. She sneaked an arm around his waist and viciously pinched him, but she was unable to. This evil fellow had been prepared and had flexed his muscles. Tangwana ground her teeth furiously, but she couldn't do anything. "Has everyone gathered?" asked Elder Shah. "Reporting to Elder, we've all come," answered Wang Mang hastily. Even now, they all felt like they were in a dream. Their gains were too shocking. If everyone split things evenly, Wang Mang estimated that even if he worked for 2 centuries as an outer disciple, he wouldn't be able to gather so much. Elder Shah nodded and controlled the flying boat. A barrier of light appeared over it, and it sped away. At this moment, Longchen extended his arms and wrapped them around Meng Qi and Tangwana's waists. They both blushed, not expecting Longchen to be so brazen. "Scoundrel, release me. There are so many people here," whispered Tangwana. "Careful." Suddenly, Elder Shah's expression changed. Boom. The flying boat shook violently and flipped through the air. The people inside smashed against the barrier. Some vomited blood and some even fainted. "What's going on?" Wang Mang and the others were dizzy from the impact. Only Longchen had long since been prepared. His feet had been like nails in the ground. Even Meng Qi and Tangwana weren't affected. "Longchen," said Meng Qi. "I don't know anything. What just happened?" asked a dumbfounded Longchen. "Everyone be careful. It's a 9th rank sea demon," shouted Elder Shah. Boom. The flying boat once more flipped. A mile-long tentacle had sent it flying. But this time everyone was prepared and was circulating their spiritual yuan in defense, as well as tightly holding onto the flying boat. But they still felt like their organs were flipping within them. "Damn, it's even more amazing than I had thought." Longchen sighed emotionally inside as he looked at that huge tentacle. "You scoundrel, as expected, you knew all along," said Tangwan. Being held by Longchen, most of the force was blunted by him, so she and Meng Qi didn't feel much. They both realized this was definitely something caused by Longchen. He had probably known all along that they would draw over a 9th rank sea demon. "Shoo!" Longchen made a keep quiet gesture, stealthily pointing to Elder Shah. Meng Qi and Tangwana were speechless. Longchen was too evil, intentionally causing trouble for Elder Shah. And Elder Shah was truly unlucky to run into an evil person like Longchen. Everyone looked at that tentacle with shock. It suddenly curled and wrapped around the flying boat, making it so it couldn't move. Everyone felt themselves sink. "Crap, it's dragging us into the sea." Wang Mang and the others were terrified. They hadn't even seen the form of the 9th rank sea demon. Just its huge tentacle was able to cause so much trouble. "Brute, are you looking down on me?" Elder Shah was finally infuriated. Countless runes lit up on the flying boat, and flying swords shot out at the huge tentacle. That tentacle was sliced apart by countless sharp runic blades. The flying boat escaped its clutches and flew away. Suddenly, the surface of the water rapidly rose. A colossal figure showed up in front of the boat, blocking even the sun. Heavens, what kind of monster is this? How is it so huge? Everyone was horrified. This sea demon was so huge that even the flying boat looked like a toy in comparison. Long Chen managed to see it clearly. It was like an octopus, but it didn't have 8 tentacles. Instead, it had hundreds of them. Black, sticky liquid covered its body. It spread its tentacles, blocking the path of the flying boat. This is a 9th-rank sea demon? What a terrifying aura, said Guoran with shock. Although they were on the flying boat and had a protective formation, the aura of the 9th-rank sea demon still caused them to shiver. In front of this 9th-rank sea demon, they seemed as minuscule as ants. Something this big can be eaten for a long time. Wild was drooling as he looked at the huge sea demon. He had never seen such huge rations. Wang Mang and the others almost coughed up blood. Was the only thing on his mind food? They were the ones about to be eaten. Long Chen, don't you think this is a bit too much? Said Meng Qi worriedly. It's fine. With Elder Sha present, this 9th-rank sea demon should just be the appetizer. Long Chen shook his head. He had been relaxed from the start precisely because of his confidence in Elder Sha. Elder Sha was just about to control the flying boat to retreat when the 9th-rank sea demon formed a huge net around them with its tentacles. Although it was huge, its speed was shockingly fast. Its tentacles instantly bound the flying boat and pulled them toward it. Heavens, what a terrifying mouth, cried Tang Wan. The sea demon had opened its mountain-sized mouth. It was filled with teeth that shone with a sharp, cold light. We're going to be eaten. Wang Mang felt despair. Brute, you're asking for it? Elder Sha snorted. It was unknown what he did, but the flying boat suddenly trembled. A huge cannon appeared on the prow. Die! Shouted Elder Sha. The flying boat shook intensely, and a huge ray of light shot toward the 9th-rank sea demon's mouth. The light engulfed the entire sky, causing it to shake as if the air was about to explode. This attack was one of the flying boat's trump cards. Since the Xiantian Dao sect dared to bring tens of thousands of disciples through the martial heaven searing, how could it not have a few tricks? Long Chen had only dared to use the medicinal pill because he had seen through this point. He hadn't expected his luck to be this good. His medicinal pill had actually managed to draw over a 9th-rank sea demon. The light unleashed by the flying boat's cannon tore through the sea demon's head. It was instantly killed. After killing the sea demon, Elder Sha immediately controlled the flying boat to gather the sea demon's corpse. Ha! Amazing! A 9th-rank Naiden has fallen into our hands, laughed Long Chen. The 9th-rank sea demon's corpse was too huge. Despite being a corpse, it gave off a sense of pressure that made it hard for them to breathe. Wang Mang and the others impatiently charged their way into the corpse through the injury. They quickly came out. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen here. A 9th-rank Naiden is a priceless treasure. Wang Mang ignored the blood and gore on it and handed over a fist-sized sphere to Long Chen. The sphere had runes within it, making it seem like it was alive. It continued to release a powerful pressure. This was where the 9th-rank sea demon's essence was gathered. It contained boundless energy. Long Chen received it. Meng Qi exclaimed, "What powerful water energy fluctuations! And they're so pure! It just so happens that we have a few water attribute warriors in the Dragon Blood Legion." After refining the 10,000 spirit blood, there were 7 people that awakened rare water attribute runes. Their combat power had leaped a great deal. I will be keeping this 9th-rank Naiden as I have a few brothers who need it. But I won't let you lose out. As compensation, all the Naidens of the Dragon Blood Legion will be yours, said Long Chen. We can't accept that. Don't look down on us. Without you, it would have been impressive for each of us to get a dozen 6th-rank Naidens. You must take the 9th-rank Naiden. The amount of profit we've gotten now is enough for us to cultivate for a century without worry. Truly, we know when to be satisfied, said Wang Mang. It was under Long Chen's lead that they had gathered close to 1,000 8th-rank Naidens. As for 7th-rank Naiden, they numbered over 13,000, and there were too many 6th-rank Naidens to even count. But it was definitely over 100,000. Once they split that equally, the resources they would obtain were enough for them to cultivate for 100 years without running out of resources. They truly did have enough. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen, leave us some face. Without you, we wouldn't have gotten anything like this. We've already benefited greatly, so we can't be more greedy, said another disciple. Without the Dragonblood Legion, they'd have long since fled in the face of the terrifying army of sea demons. It was all thanks to the Dragonblood Legion. Seeing their sincere expressions, Long Chen didn't push them. Cupping his fists, he said, "Then I'll thank everyone." Long Chen tossed the 9th-rank Naiden to one of the water attribute Dragonblood warriors. They could absorb the water essence inside to increase the level of their water energy once more. However, the amount of energy inside it was too berserk, and they would need a long amount of time to withdraw that energy. This big fish is mine. I can eat it for a long time. Wild directly put away the huge 9th-rank sea demon's corpse. He was even more excited than those fellows who had obtained the Naidens. Boom. Suddenly, the sky darkened. A fierce storm containing water chi filled the sky. Damn, this time I might have gone a bit too far. Long Chen hastily looked out and saw 4 huge figures blocking the sun. They were 4 9th-rank sea demons, charging over and surrounding the flying boat. Wang Mang and the others turned pale. The auras of those 4 sea demons caused them to quiver. Shintian wave. What comforted them was that Elder Sha was still calm. Without the slightest panic, countless runes lit up on the flying boat. A ripple spread through the air. The ripple struck those huge sea demons, sending them flying back over 1,000 miles. Everyone cheered. "This thing's good. Boss, when we get enough money, I want one." Guarant's eyes shone as he looked at Elder Sha controlling the flying boat. He was filled with envy. Why bother? This kind of huge flying boat isn't something we can buy with our current wealth. Long Chen knew that this kind of flying boat containing both great offensive and defensive properties had to have a price that could frighten people to death. Furthermore, even if they could buy one, they wouldn't necessarily be able to use it. Long Chen had stealthily investigated it and found that on the bottom levels of the flying boat, there was a sealed space. Although he wasn't able to go inside, he could sense endless spiritual chi in it. The inside had to be packed full of spirit stones, and high-grade ones at that. Whether used for offense or defense, this flying boat had to exhaust an ocean's worth of high-grade spirit stones. Long Chen wouldn't waste his money on such a thing, so he'd rather Guoran give up on that thought. Elder Sha had only just sent those 4 sea demons flying when he drove the flying boat away. But this time, the flying boat's speed wasn't very high. It needed more time to accelerate, and as a result, the 4 sea demons quickly caught up. A huge walrus-like sea demon struck the flying boat with its huge tail. Boom. Despite activating its defenses, the flying boat was sent flying into the distance. Everyone's bodies shook, and they almost coughed up blood. Damn brutes. Someone, come take my place to control the flying boat. I'll go kill them. After saying that, Elder Sha surprisingly left the flying boat, going out on his own to fight those 4 sea demons. Everyone was stunned. Wang Mang stuttered, "But none of us know how to drive it?" Boom. Everyone let out startled cries as the flying boat was once more struck, and some disciples coughed up blood. Although the boat's defenses were active, some of the power behind the sea demons' attacks still managed to get through. The weaker disciples were unable to bear it. They were horrified. The difference between 8th rank and 9th rank sea demons was immense. Even Gu Yang and the others felt like they wouldn't be able to receive such a terrifying attack. "Let me." Guoran jumped onto the control platform. Studying the countless runes and lines in front of him, he tried to figure out how to control it. "Does he understand how to?" asked Wang Mang. "Don't worry, I guarantee he definitely doesn't know," said Gu Yang. At first, Wang Mang's worries were laid down. But once the sentence was finished, he almost coughed up blood. "Big brother, don't joke at this time. Life and death are up to fate. What's the point of being afraid? You'll just feel worse, and in your panic, be unable to make the right decisions. Then your last chance at life will be thrown away, said Gu Yang indifferently. Wang Mang was stunned. Only now did he see that while the Dragon Blood warriors were startled, their expressions didn't contain the slightest fear or panic. This should be the divine dragon tail spin, exclaimed Guoran suddenly, full of excitement. He slammed his hand on a button. At this time, the attack from a 9th-rank sea demon was coming right at them. Once Guoran pushed the button, a huge tail appeared at the end of the flying boat. The tail was like a dragon's tail and was formed of countless runes. And after pressing the button, the flying boat began to rapidly revolve. The huge tail swung like a whip, striking the sea demon. Nice! Guoran was delighted. This kind of feeling was amazing. But after sending the sea demon flying, he was unable to stop the flying boat. It continued to rapidly spin, forming a whirlpool in the air. Hurry and stop it. People began to puke. This kind of high-speed spinning was something even the senior disciples found unbearable. I don't know how to stop it. Guoran held onto the chair in the control platform. He had lost control of the boat. It was unknown what happened eventually, but as Guoran wildly spun through the air, he ended up kicking a mechanism, and the flying boat slowly stopped spinning. Oh, so the button on top was the one to activate it, and the one below was to stop it, said Guoran. He finally understood the control mechanism. Long Chen held onto Meng Qi and Tang Wen. Although the two weren't injured, their heads were dizzy from being flung around. Meng Qi was especially pale since she was a soul cultivator. Guoran, are you capable of this or not? Scolded Long Chen upon seeing Meng Qi suffering. Don't worry, this time I'll definitely be able to control it. Guoran carefully studied the various lines on the control panel. His understanding of some of those immortal characters wasn't very good, but through the layout and patterns, he was able to guess some things. Careful, another one's coming, shouted someone. Another 9th-rank sea demon was coming from behind. Just watch. Guoran smashed his hand on the control panel. The stern of the boat opened, revealing a mirror. Countless lines lit up on it. There were thousands of spirit stones embedded on its back, and they were all high-grade spirit stones. At the center of the mirror, there was an especially radiant spirit stone. It was actually an exceedingly rare top-grade spirit stone. The mirror unleashed waves of light. A huge arrow appeared on it, shooting at the 9th-rank sea demon. The instant the arrow appeared, all the spirit stones on the back of the mirror turned dark, cracked, and shattered. As expected, it's a money-burning toy. Long Chen and Guoran both saw that clearly. This was something only a rich person could use. The sea beast was unlucky. Its head was right at the boat's stern, and as a result, the arrow pierced its head, causing it to explode. Before anyone could cheer for Guoran, a figure appeared within the flying boat and pushed Guoran aside, controlling the flying boat to flee. Big trouble. We're running. Flee. Everyone was still confused when the 4 sea demons' corpses were tossed inside the flying boat. Elder Shah had killed the other 3 sea demons before returning, and they had just been too tense to notice that he had killed them. Elder Shah didn't have his previous ease once he had returned. An unprecedented solemn expression was on his face, and he hastily sent the boat flying away. Everyone was startled. Weren't the 4 9th-rank sea demons all killed? Why was he so nervous? What's going on? Tang Wan'er stealthily whispered to Long Chen. I might have gone a bit too far. We're surrounded. Long Chen felt a bit bad. He hadn't expected matters to develop to this extent. Space suddenly began to tremble, and huge waves soared into the sky. Terrifying pressures crashed down upon them as huge figures flew out of the sea. Heavens, there are actually this many. They found that the flying boat was surrounded. Everything within thousands of miles was blocked off. Those huge figures were all 9th-rank sea demons, and there were actually around 80 of them. 80 9th-rank sea demons covered the entire sky. This was a blockade they couldn't get out of. Everyone, prepare yourselves. We can only charge our way through, shouted Elder Shah. He pressed down on several spots of the control panel. The flying boat suddenly rumbled and spiritual chi erupted. The runes on the flying boat lit up, even the ones on the interior. Although the disciples didn't understand how to operate such a huge flying boat, seeing all its runes lit up, it was clear that the flying boat was about to use its full power. They didn't dare to be careless. They summoned their heavenly Tao runes to protect themselves to avoid being killed by the intense impact. The light from the flying boat's runes suddenly blazed like the sun. Long Chen sensed the spirit stones stored below deck rapidly shatter. Half of their energy vanished in an instant. The flying boat shot off like a cannonball, smashing into the 9th-rank sea demons in front of it. 2 of them were smashed to death, while the others were blown out of the way. But Elder Shah's expression became uglier. This one impact caused quite a few people inside the flying boat to vomit blood and collapse on that ground. The impact had almost taken their lives. Suddenly, a furious roar rang out. The sea demons split apart, revealing a huge figure floating in the sky. 6-horned sea serpent? Elder Shah couldn't help but let out a startled cry. That huge sea drake had 3 pairs of horns. Its horns were golden and possessed ancient runes on them. The 6-horned sea serpent was different from ordinary sea demons. It possessed its own name. Only a few powerful sea demons possessed the qualifications to be named by the human race's cultivators. Foolish humans, since you wanted to cause trouble in our domain, you can die. Shockingly, this 6-horned sea serpent was capable of human speech. But its voice was like iron scraping against iron. If they didn't listen carefully, there was no way to understand it. Now it's troublesome. Elder Shah's expression was exceedingly ugly. What is it? Can you not handle it? Long Chen walked over to Elder Shah's side. That 6-horned sea serpent isn't an ordinary sea demon. It is exceptionally powerful and possesses its own innate divine abilities. If it was a 1-against-1, perhaps I could defeat it, but right now we're surrounded. Furthermore, there are not enough spirit stones in the flying boat anymore. If we use them all up, it should be no problem to kill this 6-horned sea serpent, but then the flying boat won't have the energy to fly anymore. We're stuck, sighed Elder Shah. Wang Mang and the others were pale. Elder Shah's meaning was clear. The flying boat only had enough energy to launch one more attack, but if they used it, the flying boat wouldn't be able to move any longer. And using it would only be able to kill the 6-horned sea serpent, not the other 9th-rank sea demons. In other words, even Elder Shah was helpless now. They would all die here. They despaired. The heavens really knew how to play people, to let them become rich right before dying. How about you let me try something? Asked Long Chen after a moment's thought. You? Elder Shah was startled. Yes. I'm not fully confident, but it's worth a shot. Senior, please transport me outside the flying boat, said Long Chen. Are you sure about this? Asked Elder Shah. Yes. Long Chen saw that the 6-horned sea serpent scales were starting to glow. It was storing up energy for a powerful attack. In front of everyone's horrified gazes, Long Chen appeared outside the flying boat. Standing at the front, Long Chen icily stared at the 6-horned sea serpent. Heavens, what is boss doing? Gu Yang's jaw dropped. He didn't dare to believe his eyes. Even Elder Shah didn't dare to face this many sea demons. But Long Chen charged out on his own. That was too shocking. An ant's come out? Are you trying to use your pathetic life to appease our anger? Said the 6-horned sea serpent coldly. With its huge body floating in the air, Long Chen truly was as tiny as an ant. Idiot, you're not kneeling in front of your ancestor? Shouted Long Chen. His blood chi circulated, and green scales appeared over his skin. A powerful aura erupted. An unspeakable grandeur came from him, and despite being smaller and lower, he seemed to look down on the rest of the world. The 6-horned sea serpent had just been about to launch its attack when Long Chen's new aura struck him. It came to a sudden stop and began to shiver involuntarily. The other sea demons had it even worse, trembling intensely and retreating. Damn, do you see this? This is how domineering boss is. Even sea demons have to part in front of him. This is the highest realm of posing, exclaimed Guo Ran passionately. Even Elder Shah was shocked. More and more, he found he was unable to understand Long Chen. That blood chi should be a spirit blood pressure, but he couldn't understand why the sea demons would be so terrified. What he didn't know was that this wasn't spirit blood pressure, but the bloodline pressure Long Chen could release after refining the green dragon essence blood. His dragon blood had come from a true dragon, a king amongst all beasts. Its bloodline pressure was especially effective against magical beasts and sea demons. Even these 9th-rank sea demons were terrified and didn't dare to approach him. "Scram!" shouted Long Chen, his roar ringing like thunder in the air. An unquestionable will cause the 9th-rank sea demons to actually retreat even more. Even the 6-horned sea serpent slowly moved to the side, leaving a path open. The blood chi coming from Long Chen's body terrified it. Although it was a bit unwilling, it was unable to resist that pressure. Seeing a shout from Long Chen actually form a path amongst the 9th-rank sea demons, Elder Shah was delighted. He sent the flying boat forward. "Boss says to go slower." "Don't show any timidity," said Guoran, looking at Long Chen. Long Chen's hands were clasped behind his back, but they were in constant motion, forming signals that only Guoran, who was most familiar with Long Chen, understood. When the two of them had nothing else to do, they would come up with some secret signals. Guoran was the commander of the Dragon Blood Legion, so the two of them needed a secret communication method. Even spiritual messages might be cut off on a battlefield. So the two had come up with a secret communication method. That way, they could silently communicate on the battlefield without anyone else knowing. The flying boat slowly moved forward. With Long Chen standing at the front and his blood chi soaring out of him, the 9th-rank sea demons just watched, not daring to stop them. Even the 6-horned sea serpent didn't dare despite having an urge to do so several times. That grand aura Long Chen was releasing was so powerful that it seemed to look down on all others, including the 6-horned sea serpent. The more Long Chen expressed his disdain for it, the more it didn't dare to attack. It didn't know what to do, and the other sea demons were waiting for its orders. It didn't know that Long Chen was already starting to sweat. Although he had the pressure of the dragon blood, he was only at sea expansion. This 6-horned sea serpent could probably kill him in one blow. This posing was too dangerous. Fortunately, the pressure from the dragon blood truly did intimidate them. Although Long Chen wasn't looking at the sea demons in order to appear arrogant, his divine sense was constantly roving around. "Damn, it's not working. They're going to attack." Long Chen's expression suddenly changed. He sensed the 6-horned sea serpent's scales slowly opening. He hastily gave Guoran new hand signals. Boom! The flying boat suddenly erupted with light, shooting forward like a cannonball and pushing its speed to its peak. The 6-horned sea serpent was almost ready to unleash its attack, but the flying boat had vanished. The sea demons only reacted once the flying boat escaped. They hastily chased after them. "You really are courting death, you damn bastard. You're bullying people too much," cursed the 6-horned sea serpent. It seemed in its fury, it had forgotten it wasn't human. At first, it really had been intimidated by Long Chen's aura. But no matter how strong Long Chen's bloodline power was, his cultivation base was only at sea expansion. Even with the bloodline pressure, it could easily kill Long Chen. By the time it realized this, Long Chen had fled. The most hateful thing was that right before that, Long Chen had conveniently picked up the 2 9th-rank corpses that the flying boat had smashed to death. The 6-horned sea serpent's intelligence was much higher than ordinary sea demons. It knew it had been duped, and with a roar, it led the 9th-rank sea demons to chase. Some of these sea demons flew through the air, their scales releasing some kind of spatial tearing power. Another portion returned to the sea, where their speed was the greatest. "Boss, you actually even brought those 2 corpses?" Guoran looked at Long Chen with worship. His boss truly was greedy. Even at this time, he didn't forget to get more profit. "Elder Shah, can we increase the speed?" Long Chen ignored Guoran and asked Elder Shah. "The flying boat's too big and its acceleration is too slow. It'll take at least 15 minutes to reach its top speed." Elder Shah shook his head. This was one of the disadvantages of large flying boats. It wasn't nimble enough, and it required some time to reach its max speed. Heavens, they've caught up already, cried Wang Mang. In the distance, there was a mass of huge figures chasing them, and at the front was the terrifying six-horned sea serpent. Its body swam through the air. Its scales sparkled, and its speed was alarming. "It's over for us," said one of the Eastern Wasteland's disciples. They had wanted to go to that legendary world known as the Central Plains. But before seeing that legendary world, they would die within this sea. "Elder Shah, continue accelerating as fast as possible." "I'll stall them," said Long Chen. "You can't. Your bloodline pressure is effective, but your cultivation base is too low. It's not enough to force them off, and they won't fall for it twice. Guoran, you come control the boat. I'll go hold them back. Whether or not you can escape will be up to your luck," said Elder Shah. "Elder Shah!" Everyone let out startled cries. Elder Shah was clearly saying that he would fight the sea demons to stall for them. That way, they would have some hope for surviving, but Elder Shah would definitely die once surrounded by those sea demons. It was unexpected that this indifferent and cold Elder Shah would actually sacrifice himself for them. Everyone felt a sour feeling. These are the rules. Don't feel bad. "Time is pressing, so I dash," said Elder Shah. Long Chen shook his head. "It's no use. The six-horned sea serpent's intelligence is comparable to a human's. Even if you sacrifice yourself, it'll order a portion of the sea demons to continue chasing us. Guoran isn't familiar with how to use the flying boat, so in the end, not one person will escape like that." "That's the only option," said Elder Shah. "I still have a few tricks. Maybe I can stall for a bit." "Elder Shah, transport me out," said Long Chen. Elder Shah couldn't think of anything else. If Long Chen said he still had some tricks, then the best thing to do was to let him try them. But this time, Long Chen appeared at the back of the ship. At the aft, Long Chen shouted arrogantly at the six-horned sea serpent, "Tizi, you foolish fish, you don't even recognize your ancestors' bloodline. Do you want to offend your superior?" Rumor said that the six-horned sea serpent possessed a dragon's bloodline. Although it was extremely faint, it truly existed. Amongst all the sea demons, only it was able to just barely contend against Long Chen's bloodline pressure. But it was unable to suppress the reverence that came from its soul. "Don't try to trick me. You sly, despicable humans, you aren't a true dragon at all. I'll eat you for sullying the true dragon's name," shouted the six-horned sea serpent. Long Chen cursed inside. The six-horned sea serpent had sensed his true dragon essence blood and wanted to eat him to take it. Then perhaps there really would be a chance for it to transform into a dragon. If the six-horned sea serpent wasn't so intelligent, then they would have already managed to escape. But now it was troublesome. The flying boat was accelerating with each passing moment. What they needed most at this time was for Long Chen to stall. "No, you're wrong. Haven't you heard of the true dragon Heavenly Sun? That's right, I am the true dragon Heavenly Sun. Although I'm not wearing dragon robes, can you not sense my temperament, my mannerisms? Do you not sense my aura that is like a dragon looking down on the rest of the world? As the saying goes, you can't judge people by their looks. The water of the sea is very cold, very cold." As Long Chen spouted nonsense, he ended up not knowing what to say at the end. The six-horned sea serpent was startled at first by Long Chen's nonsense. But as Long Chen continued to sputter, it ended up not understanding his nonsense. Then it noticed the flying boat was getting faster and faster, and it realized his goal. It opened its mouth, shooting a huge globe of light toward Long Chen. That was one of its innate divine abilities. If struck, Long Chen wouldn't even have a corpse. Suddenly, Long Chen disappeared as he was drawn back inside by Elder Shah. At the same time, Elder Shah pushed the flying boat's defenses as high as possible. Bang! The flying boat shook intensely and shot into the distance. Because of the immense power, the flying boat struck the water and rebounded several times, causing the people inside to vomit blood. Even the dragon blood warriors weren't able to bear it and were injured. As for the others, many of them fainted. "Are you all right?" cried Tangwana. Meng Qi was pale, and blood was dripping out of the corner of her mouth. Although Tangwana was doing her best to protect her, Meng Qi was still injured. I'm fine, comforted Meng Qi. Fuck, so it's a case of giving face but not getting face? Elder Shah, send me out. Long Chen once more appeared at the back of the boat. Pointing at the six-horned sea serpent, he cursed, "Bastard, I'll make you pay for that one." Double dragon destruction. Roaring resounded through the air as flames and lightning condensed. Two dragons 3,000 miles long appeared, immediately coiling around each other and forming a dragon twister that struck the six-horned sea serpent. Boom! The six-horned sea serpent was sent flying. Lei Long and Hua Long were no longer the old Lei Long, and Hua Long. Lei Long had absorbed an incredible amount of thunder force from the tribulation, while Hua Long had devoured another earth flame. They were both much stronger than before. The six-horned sea serpent first felt its body go numb as thunder force invaded inside and then flames wrapped around it. Even as a 9th-rank sea demon, its body wasn't able to bear such terrifying flames. A burned smell filled the air, along with the smell of cooked fish. "Brother Long, I want to eat it." Wild immediately smelled it and became unbearably hungry. Everyone almost collapsed. What time was it? How could he still want food? The six-horned sea serpent was knocked back, and although it was a bit injured, it wasn't anywhere close to a fatal injury. Long Chen had Lei Long and Hua Long continue circling at the back of the flying boat to protect them. The two of them were extremely large, and even the sea demons had to be afraid of their combination attack. With the two of them at the back of the flying boat, the sea demons were forced back further. "Boss is mighty." Guoran and the others cheered. Even Elder Shah sighed with relief as he hadn't expected Long Chen to have so many trump cards. The crisis was temporarily held back. Whether it was lightning or flames, each of them could intimidate the water attribute sea demons. The thunder force was especially effective against them, as it came from the 9 heavens tribulation lightning. "Bastard!" The six-horned sea serpent roared furiously. Seeing the flying boat's speed continuously increasing, it finally went berserk. Its body suddenly swelled, and opening its mouth, a huge globe of light shot out. Boom! The two dragons shattered in the face of this terrifying attack, causing Long Chen's expression to change. However, he also saw that the six-horned sea serpent's scales clearly dimmed slightly after it. This attack must have cost a lot. A good chance. The six-horned sea serpent had only just unleashed this powerful attack, and its aura was still at the bottom. At this moment, the back of the flying boat opened and a huge flying sword shot through its head. It was caught off guard and killed instantly. Its body was pulled into the flying boat, and Long Chen also returned inside because the flying boat's speed was now reaching its peak. The other sea demons were no longer able to get any closer. Furthermore, the flying boat was still accelerating. In other words, they were safe. "Boss is badass." "Elder Shah is tough." "Hail Elder Shah." Guoran cheered. Everyone was excited to have escaped certain death. Even Elder Shah had a rare smile on his face. The feeling of escaping calamity was truly a good one. Fuck. We ended up disturbing a terrifying existence. Long Chen was also excited at first. He was just about to tidy up the spoils when his and Elder Shah's expression completely changed. Long Chen's back suddenly became covered in sweat as a terrifying sensation of death washed over him. This was his second time feeling it. Long Chen, Meng Qi was startled. She had also experienced this kind of terrifying threat. He and Meng Qi had disturbed a terrifying existence in the spirit world. They had both almost died at that time. Now, they both sensed a threat on the same level. Elder Shah's expression was ashen. He had already given up on escaping. "Elder Shah, what kind of existence is this?" Guoran and the others were pale with terror. The aura of a 10th-rank sea demon. "We're powerless to resist," sighed Elder Shah. That was an existence on a higher level than kings. Elder Shah had never imagined that they would be so unlucky as to end up disturbing one of the 10th-rank sea demons lurking in the depths of the sea. The sunny sky turned pitch black. It was like the end of the world. A 10th-rank sea demon's power can suppress heaven and earth. For us to be able to see such a manifestation before death, we can die without regrets, sighed Elder Shah emotionally. The void seemed to be tearing. A huge head appeared in the air, looking down on them. Although they were unable to see its body, just its head was the size of a whole city. It felt as if the world had frozen. It appeared like the head of a god. It's another six-horned sea serpent. No, wait, it has 8 horns. Gu Yong looked at the huge head with horror. It couldn't be that six-horned sea serpent's dad, could it? Guoran's eyes almost popped out of his head. This monstrous head was appalling. The huge head suddenly let out a roar. It was like the heavens were exploding, and the sound waves shattered the flying boat's defenses. The ear-piercing sound was like needles stabbing into their ears. At the same time, a spiritual pressure crashed down on everyone, making them feel like their souls were about to be crushed. Long Chen hastily circulated his bloodline power. His blood chi erupted, facing that terrifying spiritual pressure. But in front of that spiritual pressure, he vomited a mouthful of blood. He was too weak in front of a 10th-rank sea demon. Even with his dragon blood, he couldn't resist. Fuck, how could this happen? I can't die yet. There are too many things for me to do. Long Chen cursed inside. He stood at the front, facing the majority of the spiritual pressure. He knew that the others wouldn't be able to resist the pressure and would be crushed alive. But Long Chen's cultivation base was still too low. He constantly vomited blood as he resisted. Long Chen, cried Tangwan. She held the unconscious Meng Qi in her hand. Elder Sha was only capable of clenching his teeth and enduring. In front of a 10th-rank sea demon, his power wasn't much different than everyone else's. Just as everyone thought they would die, a mouthful of Long Chen's blood fell into the sea. It rapidly dissipated. But suddenly, a ray of light shot out of the sea, lighting up the dark sky. A sacred, divine, irresistible might erupted. This sacred light blew apart the black clouds, lighting up the world. This is a familiar aura. Long Chen was shocked. Following that sacred light, a furious and resentful roar, which also contained fear, rang out. Then everyone felt their bodies lighten as that terrifying pressure disappeared. Heaven and earth returned to normal. The black clouds were gone, the huge head was gone, everything was gone. It was like those moments had just been a dream. But the flying boat's barrier was also gone, and there were thin cracks in some places of the boat. Those told everyone that it hadn't been a dream. Elder Sha was also dumbfounded. Just now, a sacred light had forced back the terrifying 10th-rank sea demon. That light had now vanished as well. Elder Sha didn't even know what was going on. That familiar aura is the aura of dragon blood. It must be. Long Chen's eyes shone. He even sensed a kind of bloodline summoning. It was definitely the dragon blood. Elder Sha, can you wait here for a moment? I'm going down to take a look. Wait, what are you doing? Elder Sha was startled. But Long Chen had already jumped into the sea. Elder Sha's expression sank. Willful brat, he doesn't follow the rules at all. Elder Sha, the flying boat has been damaged in several areas. We should repair it a bit. If you need it, Disciple can help. To accomplish what you ask me, I will work with all my might until I die, Guoran called out, a fawning expression on his face. Long Chen closed his eyes and sensed where that summoning was coming from. He swam toward the depth of the sea. He was sure there was something he needed down below. That light that had shot out had been absolutely shocking. It was actually able to chase away a 10th-rank sea demon. He had to figure out what was going on. As he went lower, he saw more sea demon corpses. From their appearance, it seemed they had been killed by that light as well. When he was 100 miles deep, he felt the pressure start to get too much. He had no choice but to summon his divine ring. Long Chen wasn't worried about his safety. If even a 10th-rank sea demon could be chased away, then this was probably the safest spot of the entire sea. He had underestimated the depth of the sea. He continued to sink for 3 whole days without reaching the bottom. He also had to summon the 4-star battle armor to resist the pressure. On the 4th day, he finally had to use the green dragon battle armor. Otherwise, he would have been crushed by the pressure. When he summoned the green dragon battle armor, he clearly sensed the summoning intensify. He swam toward a certain direction. He finally saw it. It was a huge scale floating motionlessly. There was actually a vacuum around it that was many miles wide. Another dragon scale? Long Chen looked at it with shock. Sensing the incomparably pure bloodline power coming from it, his heart pounded. A white dragon scale? Could it be an azure dragon's reverse scale? Long Chen couldn't believe his eyes. Legends said that when dragons were born, their scales were green, and so they were called green dragons. Green dragons were their form when they were young. As they grew, they eventually molted to become azure dragons. Their scales would become a silver-white color. They were sometimes called white dragons or silver dragons, but their true name was azure dragons. The only thing remaining of a dragon's molting is its reverse scale. If I can refine it, then according to the dragon blood body tempering art, wouldn't I be able to summon the azure dragon battle armor? Thinking of that dragon might the scale had released that had forced a 10th rank sea demon to flee, Long Chen almost cried out in excitement. Once he refined the azure dragon essence blood, wouldn't he be able to dominate the central plains? At that time, he would be able to search for his origins without fear. Long Chen slowly approached the dragon scale. It was a mile wide, but it was releasing a divine light that formed a vacuum several dozen miles wide around it. The dragon scale didn't resist as he approached. Instead, Long Chen sensed that it seemed to be drawing him closer. That delighted him. Could it be that this azure dragon reverse scale came from the same dragon as his green dragon reverse scale? Long Chen suddenly thought of that dragon expert from back then. It hadn't said much about itself. But looking at this azure dragon scale, Long Chen thought of it. He thought of that endless starry sky he had seen. Long Chen shook his head, pushing aside those distracting thoughts. What he wanted was to take the azure dragon scale right now. If he could control it, he would be unrivaled. Good, there's no resistance at all. Long Chen slowly got closer. He was extremely patient. Well, the main thing was that he had no choice but to be patient. If it could scare away even a 10th rank sea demon, then killing him wouldn't take the slightest bit of effort for it. Although he sensed an intimate will from it, he didn't dare to be careless. But, fuck no way. Long Chen suddenly found that when he reached the vacuum region, he was blocked. He wasn't able to enter. Long Chen smashed the vacuum with his fists, he slashed it with his saber, and he even used split the heavens. But that barrier didn't budge. Who cons people like this? Long Chen refused to give up. He not only used his thunder force, but he even used the earth flame. He even tried dripping his essence blood into the barrier and saw the essence blood being absorbed into the scale. That made Long Chen even more sure that this azure dragon reverse scale came from the same dragon as the green dragon reverse scale. However, after absorbing his essence blood, there wasn't much of a reaction. Long Chen tried it several times, but it was still useless. No good. I don't have the power to break this barrier. I can only leave it for later. Long Chen felt his spiritual yuan rapidly running out. Right now, he had his 4-star battle armor and green dragon battle armor on. The exhaustion was too much. If he didn't hurry and leave while he still had enough spiritual yuan, he would be crushed alive. Although he was filled with helplessness, Long Chen could only return to the surface of the sea. All he could do was remember this location and wait until he was strong enough to get it. Ah, boss, you're finally back. The flying boat has been repaired, so we can leave. Long Chen was pleasantly surprised to see that Elder Shah actually gave control of the flying boat to Guoran. Guoran steered them away toward the central plains. The Eastern Wasteland's disciples eventually woke up and saw that they were still alive. They almost wept tears of joy. Only once you walked past the brink of death would you know how beautiful life was. Even the Central Plains experts had never felt so close to death. When they awoke, Long Chen began to divvy up the loot. Wang Mang and the others all expressed that they wouldn't touch the 9th rank sea demons. They were all Long Chen's. Through this battle, they had all seen that Long Chen and his people would definitely release a blazing light once they arrived in the Xiantiandao sect. Wang Mang even expressed that he was willing to be Long Chen's subordinate. Although the 9th rank sea demons were extremely valuable, Wang Mang knew that no matter how great the wealth was, it wasn't worth more than forming a friendly relationship with a limitless potential genius. The latter would only increase in value. So no matter what Long Chen said, he refused to take the 9th rank sea demons. Long Chen gave up, keeping the 9th rank sea demons' corpses and Naidens. But he gave all the Naidens at the 8th rank and below to them. Wang Mang and the Eastern Wastelands disciples couldn't refuse. When they evenly split the Naidens, they found that the huge amount of points they could trade them for would be enough for them to squander for a very long time. Points were the Shen-Tian Dao sect's tradition that was passed down all the way to the 108th monastery. Long Chen had personally experienced what it meant to possess points. If you had enough points, you could get anything. It had been many years, but now he was returning to that system. As he distributed the Naidens, he intentionally probed Elder Shah. After all, Elder Shah had contributed a lot in slaying these sea demons. Furthermore, the flying boat had been heavily damaged. Although they had put in a hasty repair, once they returned to the sect, it would definitely cost a great deal to fully repair it. But Elder Shah shook his head, saying that it wasn't in accordance with the rules. A disciple's profit was only for disciples. Furthermore, the flying boat was the property of the sect. Since he had only used it to carry out a mission, then even if the boat was destroyed, it would have nothing to do with him. Elder Shah truly was inflexible, so Long Chen could only keep the Naidens. The corpses of the powerful sea beasts were all given to Wild. He was the most excited one on the flying boat. The second most excited one was Guoran. He truly had some skill. By sucking up, he had actually won the privilege of operating the flying boat. Apparently, he had helped out a great deal to repair the flying boat. He was quick-witted and had obtained Elder Shah's recognition. And so he had taught him the way to control the flying boat. Guoran was in love with the flying boat now. He refused to leave the control panel, and Elder Shah simply left him there. Guoran's talent in this regard was truly impressive. In just a few days, his skill with the controls was impeccable. Even Elder Shah was startled by his talent. As a result, Guoran continued to operate the flying boat. It sped off, with Elder Shah occasionally telling Guoran about some upcoming twists and turns to avoid certain regions. Even Elder Shah had become much more careful after enduring such a terrifying battle. He didn't dare to make the slightest mistake with the route. Fortunately, they didn't run into any more dangers on the journey, and everything went smoothly. Long Chen asked Elder Shah to mark the spot he had found. After that, he began to deal with the Naidens. These Naidens were essentially all water attribute. Only the 6-horned sea serpent's Naiden was metal attribute, and that startled Long Chen. But Elder Shah said that the 6-horned sea serpent was different from ordinary sea demons. It possessed a powerful bloodline inheritance, similar to some humans. Just because it lived in water didn't mean its Naiden would definitely be water attribute. But over 90% of sea demons' Naidens were of water attribute. The metal attribute Naiden was given to the few dragon blood warriors with the right attribute. However, there weren't many metal attribute experts amongst them, because they had been able to make a choice when giving birth to an elemental energy. Choosing an element was extremely important. But no matter how heaven-defying 10,000 spirit blood was, if their foundations weren't good enough, then the elemental energy it would birth wouldn't be pure. Rather than condensing an elemental energy, it was better to allow the 10,000 spirit blood to spread its energy to nourish the physical body. Then it would form physical power runes. In truth, each of the dragon blood warriors liked this kind of feeling of absolute power. As a result, they only had a few elemental warriors. The water attribute warriors ended up profiting greatly, as they once more obtained several 9th-rank Naidens. It could be said that Long Chen's side had profited the most. Long Chen had tried to give some things as compensation, but he had been refused. Long Chen didn't like owing favors, but Wang Mang and the others refused to take it. It was unknown what troubles they might encounter in the future, and Long Chen definitely couldn't just watch to the side. As they continued on their journey, Long Chen focused on nourishing the divine runes in his 27 acupuncture points. The first 9 were already fully condensed. With the assistance of the divine runes, he sensed that Split the Heavens' power was already several times greater than before. And most mysterious of all, he felt a strange kind of energy supporting him when he used it. It was like a kind of blessing. He could sense it, but he wasn't able to describe it clearly. It was extremely mysterious. Split the heavens, as the treasure of the heaven-splitting battle sect, was perhaps not as simple as he had thought. There were definitely some secrets within. But Long Chen couldn't bother with those. With the first 9 divine runes fully condensed, the first form of Split the Heavens would unleash more power than the second form. That gave him more confidence. In the first few days, Long Chen was unable to calm down and focus. That was because of the Azure Dragon reverse scale. His see a treasure and can't walk away disease was recurring. He reminded himself countless times that he would one day return and that the treasure wouldn't grow legs and run away. He understood that reasoning, but it still made him feel indescribably pained. After a few days, it was unknown if it was because that summoning was too far for him to sense or if his rationality had defeated his disease, but his heart was no longer so pained, and he began to use his time to cultivate. The others were also cultivating. Only Wild was hiding in a corner and eating. The sight of him eating was too frightening for others. Seeing Wild eat a few 7th-rank sea demons each day shocked even Elder Shah. He had never seen someone who could eat this much. Wild's stomach was practically a bottomless pit. In the end, Elder Shah couldn't watch any longer. He gave Wild an oven, which was a special enchanted item that contained spatial power. It was extremely previous. It was what an expert could use to cook magical beasts. When magical beasts were tossed inside, their size would shrink until they were just a few feet long. After spending a few spirit stones, it was possible to cook it very quickly. But even a king would only be able to eat 2 or 3 bites of this compressed food, because when the food began to be digested, it would return to its original size. If they ate too much, it would make a person explode, and for a mighty king to explode from eating too much was far too laughable. With this special oven, Wild no longer ate his food raw and bloody. He profusely said his thanks to Elder Shah. Time passed quickly and 2 months were gone in a flash. At this moment, they finally saw the other side of the continent. Everyone, including Elder Shah, breathed a sigh of relief. Just as Wang Mang said, there was no storm zone on the side of the Central Plains. It was no wonder the sea demons would only attack this side and not the other 4 regions. Those storm zones were the 4 regions' natural protections. Without them, they would probably have long since ceased to exist. In these 2 months, they encountered countless attacks from sea demons, but those consisted mostly of 7th-rank sea demons with occasionally a few 8th rank. Everyone had learned their lesson. While being attacked by those sea demons, they didn't even curse back, let alone kill them. Last time had been too frightening. When the flying boat flew over the land, Elder Shah had Guoran release the barrier. Fresh air poured in, allowing everyone to relax. "What dense natural spiritual qi!" exclaimed one of the Eastern Wasteland's disciples. The spiritual qi was several times denser than the area covered by his sect's top spirit gathering formation. This is the strongest aspect of the Central Plains. The spiritual qi is incredibly abundant. The martial heaven searing is like a barrier locking the Central Plains' spiritual qi inside, not letting it flow to the other 4 regions. So the Central Plains disciples have a huge advantage. Even when they're just babies in the womb, they will be nourished by this dense spiritual qi and blessed with greater talent. Normally, they can reach qi condensation before 5, reach bone forging by 10, and even those who reach Xiantian by 15 are not rare, said Wang Mang. Everyone was startled. They could reach Xiantian by the age of 15? That was too terrifying. They had all been in their 20s when they reached Xiantian. It had to be known that the start was very important for cultivators. It was like a race against time. The younger they broke through the barriers, the greater their potential. But they also couldn't let their foundations grow unsteady. Furthermore, once you enter the sect, you'll find many very young disciples. Furthermore, they're also very lively. Wang Mang bitterly smiled when he said that. They just haven't been beaten enough. If they had met my boss, I'd bet they wouldn't be so lively, sneered Guoran. He wasn't convinced by all the praise he heard about the Central Plains geniuses. There's no need to be stubborn. Cultivation base isn't everything, and talent cannot change a person's fate. Cultivating is like climbing a mountain. Although those that climb quickly make people envious, they end up missing many sceneries. We climb slower, but we've also gained things that other people neglected. It's impossible to say who is losing and who is winning until both sides reach the peak. Everyone wants to work hard to reach the peak of the martial path. But just how high is the peak? No one can say for sure. So don't be envious and don't admire them. If there is a gain, there must be a loss. And when you lose things, that's the only time you'll be able to gain certain things. The most forbidden emotion for those struggling on the martial path is envy. It will cause you to lose yourself and be unable to see further down your path, said Long Chen. Elder Sha looked at Long Chen. He hadn't expected Long Chen to understand such principles at such a young age. It was no wonder the Dragon Blood Legion was full of such monsters. They had all been led by Long Chen, someone who truly possessed the quality of a general. The flying boat continued onwards, and Long Chen quickly saw some huge constructions. Those were used to block the attacks of sea demons. It was also possible to see some people down below. They should be the guards. He saw layers and layers of defenses. It actually continued for thousands of miles. Once they passed this defensive zone, they reached a huge transportation formation. What startled Long Chen was the fact that the flying boat directly landed on the transportation formation, and it immediately activated. They continued like this for a while until they finally went through the final transportation formation. An empty land appeared in front of them. We've arrived. Hearing Wang Mang's words, Long Chen and the others hastily examined their surroundings. Even with Long Chen's calm, he took in a cold gasp of air. What? It's this exaggerated? There were huge mountains around them, all of their peaks piercing through the clouds. 3 other huge flying boats were stopped on the empty land already. But those weren't the important point. The important point was that there were seas of people gathered in front of those flying boats. Hundreds of thousands of disciples were in front of the 3 flying boats. Some were sitting on the grass, some in small groups, some in groups of hundreds. Although they had long since been prepared, Long Chen and the others were deeply shaken. Hundreds of thousands of sea expansion experts were gathered here. That scene was shocking. When Guo Ran stopped the flying boat, hundreds of thousands of pairs of eyes looked their way. Those eyes were full of astonishment, because the flying boat Long Chen and the others were on was covered in huge cracks. It looked like it might break down at any moment. Elder Sha, this is? An expert wearing elder robes walked over, looking at their flying boat in shock. Don't mention it. We were incredibly unlucky and almost lost our lives in the Eastern Sea. Elder Sha was clearly familiar with him. He returned to his indifferent and cold self, bitterly smiling and shaking his head. That elder was tactful and didn't continue asking. But once Long Chen and the others walked off the boat, he nervously asked, "Elder Sha, this is..." That elder was clearly startled by how few people there were from the eastern wasteland. It's hard to explain. Don't ask. Elder Sha once more bitterly smiled. The other 2 elders also walked over and chatted a bit with Elder Sha. The 4 of them were clearly very familiar with each other. Speaking with those from the same generation as him, Elder Sha's expression wasn't as icy as before. "How many disciples came in total?" asked Elder Sha. "There are 876,000 from the other 3 regions. Adding your Eastern Wastelands disciples, there's a total of 876,500, said the first elder. But even he smiled when saying this. All of them couldn't help but smile. This time, there were pitifully few disciples from the Eastern Wasteland. Although the Eastern Wasteland was always last place, it wasn't as exaggerated as this. The other region's disciples looked over. Some were curious, while some displayed their disdain. Some even made provoking gestures. "As expected, it really is lively," sneered Guoran. "Let it go. Is there a point in quibbling with children? It would be better for you to cough, you understand?" Long Chen winked at Guoran. "Ah, that's right. There's definitely going to be a few beautiful girls with this many people. Boss, let's go pick some up together." Long Chen had been glaring at him as hard as possible, but this fool seemed to have gotten lost in that beautiful dream of his. As a result, he didn't see Long Chen's subtle gestures, and he was kicked by Tangwana. "You deserve it. What do I teach you normally? How can your thoughts be so dirty? I was clearly saying that you should exchange pointers with experts and figure out your weaknesses through greater experience. You can't waste the springtime of your youth, but why is your head always full of such nonsense? Long Chen scolded him righteously. Guoran wouldn't drag him down this time. Are all the children these days so lively? Laughed one of the elders. Contrary to Elder Shah, this person seemed extremely friendly. Lively? Yes, they are truly lively. Elder Shah bitterly smiled. After that huge battle, Elder Shah had thought about it. That ordinary bait they had launched out couldn't even draw over that many 7th-rank sea demons, let alone 8th-rank sea demons. Later, he had been able to privately ask Long Chen about this. But Long Chen refused to admit to anything. However, although Elder Shah was inflexible, he wasn't a fool. He knew this matter was definitely caused by him. Now that his peaceful life had returned, when he thought of how he had almost been killed because of Long Chen, he was speechless. But he did admire Long Chen, especially since in that dangerous crisis, he had gone out to face the 10th-rank sea demon's pressure. Despite knowing that it was certain death, he didn't retreat a single step. That courage was something he admired. So he didn't try to get to the bottom of this matter. He was prepared to keep this secret forever. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen, we have to leave and report on our mission. This is my address in the outer sect. If you have any instructions, please don't hesitate. Wang Mang handed Long Chen a jade plate which recorded his post. Thus, it would be easy to find him in the future. All right. Long Chen nodded. Wang Mang and the others respectfully bowed to Long Chen before leaving. They were delighted, feeling like they had been blessed. But because other than the Eastern Wasteland, the other regions all had more newcomers than ever. Each one of them had over 200,000 disciples. They would have to spread their hunting profits amongst themselves, so it was uncertain whether any of them could get even a single Niden. Compared to them, Wang Mang and the others felt like a god had specially taken care of them. Seeing this, the other 3 elders were stunned. They couldn't understand why the senior disciples would address a newcomer as senior apprentice brother. Furthermore, they bowed so respectfully with passion and worship in their eyes. According to reason, the senior disciples were supposed to blunt the newcomers' arrogance, and the newcomers should be afraid of them. How did it end up reversed? This generation of disciples is amazing. Quite a few monstrous geniuses have appeared, and the senior disciples weren't able to fully intimidate them. Perhaps this generation of disciples will be the most difficult one to handle yet. The Shentian Dao sect is about to be livelier than ever, said that friendly elder. What are you talking about? On your side? Asked Elder Shah. The senior disciples were beaten, and the intimidation didn't work very well. Who would have thought there'd be several rank 5 celestials appearing? The senior disciples were beaten in just one exchange. That's why you see them acting so arrogantly now. We'll have to pay special attention to them. Long Chen and the others heard the elder's words and were startled. Rank 5 celestials had actually appeared. It was just unknown if they were innate or acquired rank 5 celestials. If they were innate, then their combat power would be shocking. Those who could awaken as rank 5 celestials had to have even purer spirit blood. Long Chen, you should be careful. In all the previous generations, the disciples ended up with unending conflicts during the trials. All the youngsters have too much energy. Furthermore, with the discrimination of the other 3 regions, your Eastern Wastelands disciples, well, you understand, said Elder Shah. The Eastern Wastelands disciples were always the lowest in number and the weakest amongst the 4 regions. They were looked down upon by the other regions. Dogs from the Eastern Wasteland. Just at this moment, a group of people loudly shouted this phrase from the distance. The Eastern Wasteland's disciples' expressions sank after hearing this naked insult. The Dragonblood warriors also became a bit angry, killing intent surfacing within their eyes. They icily stared at that group. Ignore them. If you encounter them in the trials, just beat them to death. Remember, our Dragonblood Legion is a whole, and no matter what trouble erupts, I'll be there to handle it. If I can't handle it, then the worst case is that we'll all die together. 18 years later, we'll rise once more as a new group of young men, and we'll reform the Dragonblood Legion. We can die, but we won't submit to anyone, understood? Said Long Chen. Understood, shouted the Dragonblood Legion. They all understood this oath. They could die, but they couldn't lower their heads to anyone. The elders' expressions changed upon hearing this. Long Chen was like a wild horse that refused to be tamed. A group of reckless fools. Did you think some stupid shouting could intimidate others? All it proves is that you're nothing more than dogs. A voice rang out from the group closest to them. The closest group came from the Western Desert, while the person speaking was holding a fan and wore a scholar's band. He truly did have a scholar's air, but his gaze was a bit sinister. With a single glance, it was obvious he was a scheming person. Although this person hadn't released his aura, a faint pressure came from his body. He was a powerful rank 4 celestial. This person actually walked out of the crowd to face the Eastern Wastelands people. His insulting tone overflowed from his words. But the elders merely shook their heads with bitter smiles. Can we fight here? Asked Long Chen. Disciples can exchange pointers whenever they want. But killing is forbidden. As long as they're not dead, even crippling them is fine. It's the same as what I said on the way here, said Elder Shah. This rule's not bad. Long Chen nodded. Report your name. Suddenly, Yu Zifeng walked out. Jeering and ridicule came from the crowds when they saw him. The Eastern Wasteland is getting worse and worse. Even trash that isn't even a celestial has muddled his way to the Central Plains. With just a glance, he's clearly a plebeian. He must have used money to bribe his way here. This kind of idiot is just a waste of resources. But that's also fine. Once he fails the trials, he won't waste the Xiantian Dao Sect's resources. He can become a worker. These people all sensed Yu Zifeng's fluctuations. He didn't have any heavenly Dao energy. Some people jeered at him, but some also felt sympathy for the Eastern Wasteland as the number of their people was pitifully low. It seemed only 500 had come. They felt that this fan-holding man was being too much of a bully. I am Xie Wei. Xie as in thank the heavens and the earth, Wei as shock the heavens and the earth. What, are you pissing yourself from hearing my name? Sneered the fan-holding man. Long Chen and Guoran both shook their heads. This kind of posing art without any skill or technique was practically an insult to their own posing arts. The reason I had you report your name is because my sword is never used against the nameless. His sword suddenly unsheathed, and a huge sword image sliced through the air. That sneering Xie Wei's smile instantly vanished. Golden Scale Shield. Xie Wei was a powerful expert and he didn't panic. He spread his hands, a golden shield appearing before him. That golden scale was formed of countless runes stacked against each other like scales. He was clearly a metal attribute expert. His defensive strength was far above average. But this golden shield was as weak as paper in front of Yu Zifeng's sword qi. It was instantly cut through. Xie Wei was startled, instinctively moving his head aside. The sword qi struck his shoulder and continued down, cutting him in two. Blood splashed everywhere. Only now did Xie Wei let out a miserable scream. It was unknown whether it was because of the pain or because of terror, but his voice was exceedingly mournful. Yu Zifeng sheathed his sword, his expression cold. It was like this was nothing more than an insignificant event. He has reached the first level of mastery in sword intent. Other than Elder Shah, the other 3 elders were shocked. Even before entering the immemorial path, Yu Zifeng had condensed an embryonic form of his sword intent. Once he had left, through Ling Yunzi's pointers, he had comprehended the true essence of the sword Dao. This so-called sword intent was the will of the sword Dao. There were millions of people who used swords, but less than 1% were actually able to gain insight into the sword Dao. Only a few were able to firmly pledge their life to the sword and become a sword cultivator. Sword cultivators sacrificed all magical arts and battle skills that didn't focus on the sword Dao. Their specialization into the sword reached the point of rather dying than wavering. Only such people were qualified to be called sword cultivators. Furthermore, even amongst sword cultivators, Over 99% of people were unable to comprehend the true will of the Sword Dao. They were still dithering outside the Sword Dao. Someone who could condense their own sword intent was a genius of the Sword Dao. The most terrifying thing about Yu Zifeng's attack was that Xie Wei was unable to heal it. Even as he used his heavenly Dao energy to paste his body back together, his blood didn't stop pouring out of his injury. There was some kind of bizarre energy ruining his healing, rendering his heavenly Dao energy ineffective. Even Long Chen was shocked by this. The power of Yu Zifeng's Sword Dao was so domineering as to suppress even heavenly Dao energy. It was no wonder Ling Yunzi would turn Yu Zifeng from a celestial into an ordinary cultivator. Within a sword cultivator's destructive power lay an indescribable, miraculous energy. Brother, you should change your name in the future. Your tool for carrying on your ancestral line has been completely crippled. Calling yourself Yang Wei would be more close-fitting, called Guoran. He was truly evil to hit him while he was down. Guoran's words were an unshakable fact. That treasure used to carry out his ancestral line had been destroyed by Yu Zifeng. With the destructive power contained within his sword, that thing would probably never grow out again. Thinking of how he would be an incomplete man at such a young age, Xie Wei almost passed out from fury. But right now, he couldn't care about that. He was unable to heal, and if this continued, he would eventually die from blood loss. Normally, a cultivator could stop bleeding with just a thought. Just using some spiritual yuan to suppress it would be fine. But Yu Zifeng's attack had contained a destructive power that made his spiritual yuan useless. "Elder, save me," cried Xie Wei. "Sigh, young people shouldn't be so impetuous." That kind-hearted elder shook his head and waved his hand. A soft light enveloped Xie Wei. Xie Wei's injury instantly healed as Yu Zifeng's destructive power was completely erased by that light. However, unless Xie Wei ran into a miracle, he would be an incomplete man for the rest of his life. "Many thanks, Elder." Xie Wei hastily bowed toward him. As soon as he finished bowing, he turned to Yu Zifeng, his face full of rancor. "You bumpkins, how dare you sneak attack me while my guard was down? Truly shameless. Calling you dogs is praising you. You're just a group of pigs." No one had expected that a Grand Rank 4C expansion celestial would actually burst into curses after losing. Even the four elders' expressions sank. How could one of the Grand Xiantian Dao sect's disciples spout obscenities like a crazy man on the street? "Clean out your mouth. I don't care how much shit you've eaten, but don't randomly spout it at people. Otherwise, you won't see tomorrow's sunrise," raged Guoran. "Maliciously killing people is against the rules. You will immediately be expelled," shouted Elder Shah. "The punishment is just being expelled?" Long Chen's eyes brightened. That made Elder Shah have a bad feeling. And as expected, Long Chen shouted, "Brothers, if anyone provokes you, don't worry about holding back. In any case, Celestials won't die so easily. And if they do die, we just have to leave and make our own living in the Central Plains. With power, wouldn't we have enough to eat no matter where we go?" "It's over." Elder Shah regretted opening his mouth. He had been trying to intimidate them, but instead, he had just made the rules clear to them. They would probably be even more unrestrained than ever. He saw many of the Dragon Blood warriors clenching their weapons, cold light shining in their eyes. It was like they were leopards eyeing their prey. "Brother Zifeng, you can go kill that fake man first. This time, cut him into 8 pieces," shouted Guoran, as if worried things weren't chaotic enough. Yu Zifeng slowly reached for the sword on his back, causing Xie Wei's expression to completely change. He hastily retreated into the crowd. "Eastern Wasteland people, don't go too far." A cold shout rang out from the western desert side. A large man walked over. He was extremely tall, with his long hair bound to the back of his head. He wore a waistcoat and straw sandals, and his skin was a deep bronze color. His aura wasn't revealed, but his gaze was electric. "I dare to bet that he is an earth attribute expert." Guoran closely examined the large man. "How can you tell?" Song Mingyuan and Li Qi couldn't help but ask. Although they had their suspicions as well, they weren't as sure as Guoran. "Just look at how dirty his aura is." It's obvious, said Guoran. What the fuck? Song Mingyuan and Li Qi were speechless. Guoran was becoming more and more shameless. The two of them had been duped. As Earth attribute experts, the two of them were extremely sensitive to Earth attribute fluctuations. But this large man had something that isolated him from their senses, so they couldn't be sure. Don't go too far? Don't you think it's satirical for such words to come out of your mouth? From the start, it was your people provoking us, said Long Chen indifferently. Although this dirty large man seemed like a farmer who had just left the fields, Long Chen could sense he was a terrifying Earth attribute expert. The reason his aura wasn't revealed was because it was practically merged with the Earth. That was a powerful realm. Once he fought, the Earth's energy would erupt and aid him. Furthermore, Long Chen sensed another dislikable aura, the will of the heavenly Daos, and it was extremely intense. Long Chen was sure he was a rank 5 celestial. The weak don't have the qualifications to cry. People sneer at you because the Eastern Wastelands branch sect is always trash. Who do you have to blame? Each time, your side has the lowest number of people, and they're always the weakest. You're trash, but you don't want others to call you trash? That just makes you even greater trash. Xie Wei's confidence grew with that large man's support, and he began to curse at Long Chen. Your mouth really is disgusting. No wonder Guoran said you eat shit. Long Chen shook his head. He slowly extended a hand. Everyone's vision blurred, and they seemed to hear a clap of thunder. Long Chen suddenly appeared right beside Xie Wei and slapped him across the face. The sound was resounding and clear. But within that clear sound was a pained snort, as well as the sound of bones breaking. Xie Wei shot back. It seemed that Xie Wei didn't have good relationships with people. No one moved to catch him as he shot past them. Instead, they all moved out of his way, and Xie Wei face planted into the ground. Seeing that, quite a few people felt sympathy for him. Xie Wei's jaw was broken. Although they hadn't personally experienced his pain, their own jaws tingled. Xie Wei fell unconscious from the pain, not even having time to recover. The four elders shook their heads. Xie Wei was truly trash. After losing, he started cursing wildly without end. For him to faint after just suffering a bit of pain, the only thing that could be said was that he had been spoiled rotten and had never experienced any true life and death battles. Otherwise, no matter how much pain you felt, you wouldn't faint. If you were on the battlefield when that happened, you'd have died 100 times. Brat, you're courting death. The large, dirty man roared and the ground began to shake. Earth energy surged toward him, and he seemed like a volcano about to erupt. All the disciples' expressions changed and they retreated. Long Chen stood with his hands clasped behind him, icily staring at the dirty man. Those who tell me I'm courting death have pretty much all died. If you don't believe me, you can try it. The other disciples were all startled. This newcomer from the Eastern Wasteland was this confident. Some of them had been sympathizing with Long Chen and the others over being bullied, but now seeing him display such a domineering attitude, they jumped in shock. Facing this infuriated opponent, Long Chen was completely indifferent. His long hair and black robes danced in the wind, making him appear more handsome than ever. Most moving of all were his clear eyes. That seemingly thin body with its domineering eyes was a powerful visual that caused some women's hearts to sway. The large man's aura continued to rise until the sound of a bell rang out. Heaven and earth turned silent, and a voice rang out within that silence. Everyone, the disciple selection is about to start. That crystal-clear voice had come from a woman. Everyone hastily looked over to see a group of people walking over. The person at the front was a woman in green robes. She had a beautiful face and figure, and she lightly walked across the ground, giving off a feeling of having merged with heaven and earth. It was a natural and refreshing feeling, as if she was an elf who had walked out of the forest. A wood attribute expert? Long Chen was startled. This woman's aura was very similar to Chu Yao's. It contained boundless life energy. Behind her was a group of men and women. They all wore white robes and gave off a transcendental feeling. Long Chen and the others knew this was a Dao charm formed from cultivating the Xiantian Dao Sect's specific cultivation techniques. This aura was similar to the elders. It went without saying that this kind of aura made people feel exceptionally relaxed. It was something pleasing to the eye and heart. These people were all foundation forging experts, and the first thing they did was bow toward the four elders. What Long Chen and the others didn't understand was that the four elders returned a slight bow. The green-robed woman looked at Long Chen and the large man who were about to fight. "Go back to your camps. The trial is about to start." Her voice was soft and gentle without any arrogance. It was like a big sister advising a junior brother. Long Chen nodded and returned. Long Chen might not have said anything, but the large man was unwilling. Long Chen had caused him to lose face, and he shouted, "Brat, taste one of my fists." The ground beneath his feet suddenly became covered with runes. Everyone was shocked, as the aura of his attack was shocking. He hadn't needed to gather any energy at all before launching such a powerful attack. Long Chen frowned. Was this idiot's head also dirt? Did he think that he was going back to his side because he was afraid of him? He was just about to attack when the ground split open and countless vines shot out at the large man. He let out a startled cry and hastily fell back. But it was too late. Those vines instantly bound him and raised him in the air. No matter how he struggled, those vines didn't budge. I've heard that youngsters have violent tempers. Looks like it's true. How about I help you restrain yourself a bit? The green-robed woman smiled slightly, a teasing light in her eyes. "Trifling vines, don't think you can bind me, Yen Mochin." "Great earthen armor," roared the large man, runes lighting up on his body. Everyone's gazes became odd. No matter how long they waited, the earthen armor never appeared. "Did you forget your armor at home?" asked Guoran. "Idiot, his head really is full of dirt." With his feet off the ground, this senior apprentice sister has severed his connection to the ground. What can he possibly summon? Li Qi shook his head. He and Song Mingyuan were also earth attribute experts, so they were profoundly aware of their fatal weak points. They couldn't leave the ground. While crossing the sea, the two of them had been on edge the entire time. Without the support of the earth, they had been nervous. The two of them hadn't participated in the battle over the sea. This woman was clearly taking advantage of his weakness by keeping him hanging in the air. He was easily bound. As for summoning some great earthen armor, that was clearly impossible. Would spirit binding? A faint smile appeared on the woman's lips. The vines around Yen Machen's body instantly tightened. The chilling sound of bones breaking rang out. "Ah!" Yen Machen let out a miserable cry. The vines had actually crushed his bones and were continuing to compress. It felt like they were trying to crush him to death. Everyone cringed. This green-robed woman looked so kind and friendly, but in the blink of an eye, she became a devil. She was so ruthless that it inspired disbelief. That faint smile on her lips made it seem like she was very happy. The four elders were used to this and didn't react at all. They just indifferently watched. As for the men and women behind the green-robed woman, they had mocking smiles. Some of them even covered their mouths and stealthily laughed. Heavens, this big sister is so strong. This person has become much more slender, said Tangwan. Long Chen rolled his eyes. He isn't losing weight, he's losing form. It's the same as a person's bun being squeezed into noodles. In front of everyone's shocked gazes, Yen Machen was squeezed to the point that he was 50% taller than before. He was truly much more slender. But this body sculpting progress made people quiver. His pained cries and the sound of bones breaking continued to ring out. They looked toward Long Chen. If only Yen Machen possessed Long Chen's eyesight, he wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable plight. Senior apprentice sister, spare me. Junior disciple was wrong. Yen Machen finally apologized. He now understood that while he could call himself hegemon of the Western Desert, he wasn't even dog's hit in front of the experts from the previous generation. Not all the senior disciples were as weak as the ones who had greeted them. Now he had learned his lesson. If you had said that earlier, wouldn't it have been much better? The green-robed woman smiled warmly, once more becoming like a big sister. But this time, No one was tricked by her smile. They were all on guard now. Within the Xiantian Dao sect, no matter what, they couldn't try to be posers, especially not in front of the elite senior disciples. Otherwise, the results would be incomparably miserable. The vines slowly released Yanmochin. But once he was released, everyone was shocked to see he wasn't the slightest bit injured. Furthermore, his body hadn't changed at all. It was like his previous appearance had been an illusion. "What terrifying healing capabilities!" exclaimed Meng Qi. Longchen nodded. Yanmochin was a rank 5 celestial. Just now his bones had been completely crushed and his body had changed form. Such heavy injuries would take at least a few hours to fully recover with heavenly Dao energy. But when that green-robed woman released him, he was silently and instantly healed. "Boss, how about you seduce her to our side?" Then we dash. Tang Wanner sent a kick toward Guoran. But even before he was kicked, Long Chen had tightly covered Guoran's mouth. "Little Guizi, are you trying to get me killed? Don't make such jokes, or someone will die for it," whispered Long Chen through clenched teeth. Guoran acted regardless of the law or the heavens. But even if he didn't care about the law or even the heavens, what about this boss of his? He couldn't just con him like this. The green-robed woman could capture Yanmochin with a wave of her hand. Long Chen didn't dare to fight her right now, as that was just asking to be beaten. After this painful lesson, Yanmochin behaved much better. He bowed toward the green-robed woman and returned to his camp. But before leaving, he raised a fist at Long Chen. His meaning was clear. "Just wait, my fist will smash you sooner or later." Long Chen ignored him. But Guoran also raised his fist, his central finger raised high, a disdainful expression on his face. "All right, everyone calm down," said the green-robed woman. She intentionally looked toward Long Chen's side, causing him and Guoran to become a bit guilty. They quickly put on a listening posture. "First, let me introduce myself. I am Mu Qingxian. You can call me Senior Apprentice Sister Qingxian, or you can just directly call me Big Sister Xian. It doesn't really matter, because I'm very easy to talk to. 10 years ago, I stood where you stand and listened to the senior disciples' teachings. Now, 10 years later, I'm reminded of that time as I look at all of you. To tell the truth, I'm very happy and very excited," said Mu Qingxian emotionally. Everyone was speechless. She was happy right now, so she had only crushed Yanmochin so badly? If she were unhappy, just what kind of state would she have crushed him into? Mu Qingxian continued, "Don't blame me for being violent. There's no way around it, because if I didn't kill a chicken to warn the monkeys, you wouldn't calmly listen to my words." Yanmochin's expression changed. He felt hatred, but he didn't dare to hate Mu Qingxian. So he hated Long Chen. He was sure that Long Chen had seen through some clues, which was the only reason why he had retreated without a word. As a result, he had been the one to foolishly jump into the trap. Mu Qingshuan's words were very clear. Without beating someone, no one else would listen to her seriously. Even if Yanmochin and Long Chen had avoided this trap, others would have been used as examples. But Yanmochin was the unlucky one. "I understand you all too well. I still recall how I felt when I first arrived at the Xiantian Dao sect. Proud, arrogant, unwilling to submit, as if I was unrivaled beneath the heavens. Back then, people in my group were also beaten. Back then I was smart and didn't get beaten." Mu Qingxian smiled as she fell back into her memories. Everyone was speechless. They stealthily looked toward Yanmochin and saw that his face was as ugly as a pig's. The previous matter was to tell you all a principle. Children who don't behave will suffer, while children who do listen will get sweets as rewards. So, listen carefully to my words, because I don't like to repeat myself, said Mu Qingxian a bit gravely, causing everyone's hearts to shake. They hastily began to listen with rapt attention. Before the trial begins, you'll need to register. That's right, you didn't mishear, said Mu Qingxian. Everyone thought they had misheard since they had already registered before coming here. Why did they have to register again? Your previous registration was just your name. But the registration you're about to do is all-encompassing. Your talent and qualifications will all be recorded in the Xiantian Dao Sect's library, which will be very beneficial to you. The Xiantian Dao Sect will give you special care depending on your talent, and even if you fail the trials, if a certain aspect of your talent is worthwhile to the Xiantian Dao Sect, you can still join the sect. Our Dao Sect raises its disciples in line with the disciples' abilities. The goal is to bring out the disciples' potential and raise them into various specialties. That's different from your branch sections. Mu Qingxian intentionally looked over at Long Chen and the others as she continued, because your various branch sects weren't strong enough, there was no way for them to raise special disciples. But in the Central Plains, that kind of thing is of no problem. It seems our Eastern Wastelands branch sect was the poorest of them all. Long Chen bitterly smiled. Just from the other three regions' disciples' scornful gazes, it was possible to see that it was the Eastern Wasteland that was as poor as a dog. Was this the basis for their disdain toward Long Chen and the others? Everyone looked toward the Eastern Wastelands group of 500. The other groups had hundreds of thousands of people, so their small group appeared especially conspicuous. Quite a few people had sympathetic expressions, but there were many more expressions of disdain. It was like staring at the Eastern Wastelands disciples could rapidly increase their own superiority and pride. Long Chen ignored them. In his eyes, these people were nothing more than children who had been spoiled rotten. They didn't know the hardships of life, nor did they know what respect and gratitude were. Mu Qingxian continued, the Xiantian Dao sect has many specialties, from forging, refining, magical arts, formations, talismans, etc. In total, there are 360 specialties for you to choose from. Whether you are a body cultivator, magical art cultivator, soul cultivator, sword cultivator, spirit cultivator, no matter what you cultivate, the Xiantian Dao sect has countless tomes for you to study. The Xiantian Dao sect has divine items protecting it known as the Reincarnation Mirror and Xiantian Tower. The Reincarnation Mirror will allow you to study the priceless Xiantian catalog, which will allow you to use the Tao to peer into the heavens and cultivate to the point of being a god or an immortal. Here, as long as you have the talent, you definitely won't be overlooked. Horses dislike narrow paths, and the great Preng hates the heavens for being too low. But whether you are a horse or a pang, in the Xiantian Dao sect, you will have limitless room for growth. Mu Qingxuan's words rolled off her tongue smoothly. They were passionate and moving, causing hundreds of thousands of disciples to feel as if their blood was boiling. I almost believe her. Long Chen laughed. What, did she say something wrong? Asked Tang Wan. No, what she said is true. But that reincarnation mirror, Xiantian Tower, Xiantian catalog, it won't have anything to do with us. Just watch. She'll quickly explain, said Long Chen. As if cooperating with Long Chen, Mu Qingxian said, however, these resources are the foundation of the Xiantian Dao sect. Not everyone can enjoy them. Before setting your sights on obtaining these dreamlike resources, you should first get some smaller goals. For example, don't fail the upcoming trials. A chortle escaped Tang Wan'er, and she hastily covered her mouth. This scoundrel Long Chen really had seen through Mu Qingxuan's words. That final turn in her words was like a harsh slap in the face to bring everyone back to reality. Seeing everyone's startled gazes and adding on Long Chen's accurate prediction, Tang Wan'er couldn't hold back her laughter. To put it simply, within the Xiantian Dao sect, there is an ocean's worth of resources. It most likely far surpasses your imagination. So talking too much about it is useless. The only reason why I bring it up is for your own motivation. I hope you'll work hard so you don't live a life of regret. This world has its own rules, and they are bloody and cruel. Resources are things the strong have to work hard to get, while the weak can only watch others eat, or perhaps end up getting eaten by the strong. The Xiantian Dao sect is no exception, so if you want to get special care here, don't hold back. That's all I'll say, so let's start the registration. The disciples behind Mu Qingxian got to work. Everyone was surprised to see them set up a formation. The land shook, and runes appeared in the air. A huge platform appeared with dozens of pieces of equipment. It was unknown what those pieces of equipment did. Everyone, pay attention. When your name is called, hurry onto the platform. If no one comes after being called 3 times, it will be seen as giving up on the trial. You'll have to bear the consequences, shouted a man holding a thick book. The Southern Seas Branch Sex Sure Itua. A man immediately ran out of the Southern Seas group. Looking at that man, people almost laughed when they thought of his name. His name really matches him. Long Chen was almost speechless. That person wasn't very tall, but he was wider than he was tall. He was like a ball of meat as he waddled his way forward. Long Chen, you're being disgusting, scolded Tang Wan. What are you talking about? I think the person who associates him with certain things would be the truly disgusting one, laughed Long Chen. You can't beat him. He's evil, so you'll always lose, said Meng Qi somewhat helplessly. Tang Wana would lose essentially every time she sparred words with Long Chen. Then physically she was unable to injure him. Long Chen, don't think I can't handle you. If you bully me again, I'll beat Guoran. Tang Wana was in the midst of wondering how to threaten Long Chen when she suddenly saw Guoran laughing evilly. Tish, do you think I'm scared? So what if I bully you? Long Chen immediately took an attitude of being unafraid of heaven or earth. Aya! Guoran let out a miserable cry as he was kicked by Tang Wan. You dare to beat my brother? Raged Long Chen. Sister-in-law, no, big sister Wan, please stop. Guoran cried while covering his head. Tang Wan, if you really have the ability, then just go ahead and beat him to death. Do you think I'll surrender just like this? Said Long Chen. I don't believe I can't subdue you. Tang Waner increased her power. Damn it, stop. Don't think I don't see that the two of you are doing this on purpose. They shouted my name. Guoran hastily escaped from Tang Waner's clutches. The announcer had just called out his name. You two are both evil, sighed Meng Qi. Guoran had been treated unjustly. Sister Meng Qi, the two of them are always colluding, especially that Guoran. He keeps telling Long Chen to seduce more women. Cried Tang Wan, aggrieved. Correct, beating him is simply the right thing. He's becoming more and more unbridled. He wanted me to go seduce others right in front of you? He's clearly trying to disturb our peace, cried Long Chen righteously. Hey, why do your words sound so off? So if we weren't here, you could discuss how to seduce women? Demanded Tang Wan. Cough, that's nothing more than a misunderstanding. Oh look, Guoran's starting to register, said Long Chen. Tang Wana wasn't so easily distracted, and she was just about to pursue his slip of the tongue when Meng Qi grabbed her hand and shook her head. Only then did Tang Wana notice many people were staring at them oddly. There were even some men staring at Long Chen with envy that they didn't bother to mask. She realized she had already brought Long Chen more enemies without knowing it. Sticking out her tongue, she kept silent. Meng Qi and Tang Waner were peerless beauties who were outstanding even amongst the hundreds of thousands of disciples. In the cultivation world, beautiful women were a sign of a man's status, especially the kind of woman that was both beautiful and powerful. They would be pursued by countless experts. The Eastern Wastelands group was already so conspicuous due to their numbers. Thus, their little scuffle had drawn countless people's attention. Seeing Meng Qi and Tang Waner standing so close to Long Chen, displaying that their relationship wasn't ordinary, countless people became envious. There's no need to pay attention to them, nor do you need to have misgivings. You are Tang Wan. You can do whatever you want to do. Even if the heavens collapse, I will be there to hold them up for you. Their envy just means that you're beautiful. I like it when others are envious of me but also can't do anything to me, laughed Long Chen. Although a great portion of his words were just a joke, they also contained love and pampering that moved Tang Waner's heart. Inside, Long Chen truly did love her, and he wouldn't let her suffer the slightest grievance. He would rather deal with trouble than have her act restrained. Thank you, Long Chen, said Tang Waner warmly. No need to thank me. If you act this warmly to me, I'll be too embarrassed to seduce other women, laughed Long Chen. You scoundrel. Tang Waner's fury immediately resurfaced, her previous warmth vanishing. Good, just stay in this state. Once Guoran returns, we can continue, praised Long Chen, giving her a thumbs up. Just as they were talking, Guoran appeared in front of the platform. But there were still 3 people in front of him, so he had to wait a bit. The registration was in batches of 10, and Guoran was the last of his batch. Finally, the first 9 were finished, and it was his turn. After registering his name, he went onto the platform. Each piece of equipment had a person in charge of it. "Open your mouth," said a woman. Guoran couldn't believe his ears. "Sounds like pile of poop." Think of the emoji. "What?" Guoran couldn't believe his ears. "I asked you to open your mouth," the woman repeated. To test if he had misheard, Guoran only opened his mouth a bit. He didn't understand what this was for. "A bit bigger." "Ah, not that big. I can see the inside of your stomach like this. I just need to check your teeth and throat." After the examination of his mouth, Guoran continued forward. Even as he went on to the second examination, he didn't understand what the first examination was for. But he quickly realized what it was when the female examiner asked the disciple after him, an ancient race disciple? From which race?" "The blood scale race." This disciple was a woman wearing blood-red robes. A scarlet scale with the size of a fingernail could be seen on her forehead. Her face was beautiful, and her body was exceptionally moving. Even people from the ancient races could join the Xiantian Dao sect? Long Chen couldn't help being shocked. He was already completely hostile with the ancient races, and he didn't know how that would affect the future. The woman registering her wasn't surprised. She registered her as such and moved on. Long Chen saw over 30 people handling the registration. In other words, each person had to go through over 30 examinations, and each one involved different things. The first one was the most simple. First it was the name, then the race, bone age, spirit root, spirit blood, power, soul energy, etc. Each examination was strict with tools specially designed for it. There was no way to cheat. Other than these quantifiable variables, there were other things as well. For example, they would ask the new disciples about their personal strengths, ideologies, their requirements for partners, etc. When asked about his personal strengths, Guoran replied that he was a forging master. That made the senior disciple a bit moved. But when asked about his ideology, that senior disciple directly coughed up blood. Guoran's response was that his ideology was to be a poser. But Guoran's spirit root was dark gold grade, which made the senior disciple nod inside. However, when he then tested his physical strength, he became speechless. His constitution was incredibly weak and unsuited to battle. However, he was only in charge of recording this information. How the Dao sect handled it was their own matter. Nevertheless, none of them had seen a marvel like Guoran. In truth, Guoran's talent was something created by Long Chen piling a mountain of resources onto him. Guoran didn't walk the normal path, so these people naturally couldn't understand him. Through this, Long Chen saw that they split spirit roots into 5 grades: bronze, silver, gold, dark gold, and violet gold. Spirit blood was graded according to its density and split into Huang, Xian, Earth, and Heaven tiers. These 4 tiers were most commonly used in this world. The majority of people's spirit blood was at the lowest Huang tier. Even Guoran was the same. But the Huang tier was also split into 3 levels, and he had the high Huang tier spirit blood. However, his spirit blood had no attribute, and to put it frankly, it had almost no use. So it made these senior disciples feel like it was a waste of talent. Other than spirit blood and spirit root, there was another test for the elemental attribute. This was also split into 4 tiers like the spirit blood. Previously, one of the dragon blood warriors had been called up. He was an earth attribute expert, but his earth energy was only mid-Huang tier. But in the other regions, there were many disciples with high Huang tier elemental energy, and some even had mid-Xian tier ones as well. That made Long Chen see the difference. The Dragon Blood Legion was composed of experts he had spent his blood, sweat, and tears to build. Countless resources had been piled onto them for them to reach their current level. But here, the Dragon Blood warriors could only count as above average. As for the other disciples from the Eastern Wasteland, they were the bottom padding cannon fodder. Long Chen could see their helplessness and dejection. Violet Gold Spirit Root, High Earth Tier Spirit Blood, and Mid Earth Tier Water Energy. Heavens, a rank 5 Celestial, Zhao Zian. Right now everyone was paying attention to the registration. Only through paying attention to the result was it possible to tell who the peak experts of the 4 regions were. This woman from the Southern Sea immediately became the center of attention. Her spirit root, spirit blood, elemental energy, and celestial rank were all top level amongst those who had been tested. What terrifying talent! Tang Wanner was shocked. This was her first time seeing a rank 5 celestial. Looking at her beautiful appearance, she warned, "Long Chen, you're not allowed to seduce her. Otherwise, I'll never forgive you." Long Chen almost coughed up blood. He had an urge to cry. "Sister, you must be overestimating me. Even if I wanted to seduce her, who knows if she'd look favorably upon me?" True. She's a rank 5 celestial with countless pursuers. As for you, you aren't even first rank. Tang Wanner nodded. It seemed just being handsome was useless in the Shintian Dao sect. Are you cursing me for having no class? Long Chen's expression darkened. No, you're overthinking things, laughed Tang Wanner. If they weren't in a public place, Long Chen would have definitely given her a fierce bite. People were constantly being named and going up to register. However, it was unknown how they were picked. Without following a set order, everyone had to lend an ear. "Boss, I'm back." Guoran came over excitedly, a new jade plate on his waist. "Long Chen, do you submit?" Tang Wanner cried suddenly. Long Chen was first startled, but then he realized Tang Wanner was looking for an excuse to put Guoran away. The little fellow had committed a grievous crime by encouraging him to seduce women right in front of her. Just as Long Chen was wondering whether he should continue conning Guoran or not, Guoran raised his hands innocently and cried, "Sister Wan, I was wrong. Please spare Junior disciple. Junior will never dare to do the same thing again." Seeing this, Tang Wanner felt bad for him and reserved herself a bit as well. "What's this thing used for?" "This energy, it's just like..." Long Chen looked at the jade plate Guoran was holding. "It's like a photographic jade. I guess it should be a monitoring tool. While wearing it, your every move and action will be viewed by others," said Meng Qi. Are they treating us like criminals?" asked Guoran. Meng Qi shook her head. "It should be for everyone's safety so that disciples don't try to pull any tricks and kill each other." Meng Qi glanced at Long Chen with worry. "Don't worry, a well-behaved person like me doesn't like fighting and killing. I will use kindness to win others over," said Long Chen with a bashful smile. Let alone Meng Qi and Tang Wan, even Guoran rarely gave Long Chen such a disdainful look. "Boss, first, let's not talk about whether or not I'd believe you, but do you believe yourself?" Long Chen hadn't expected him to undermine him like this. He raged. "People are all capable of change. Didn't I refrain from killing anyone for many months?" The Dragon Blood warriors nodded. Long Chen truly hadn't killed anyone. After all, there hadn't been anyone to kill on the way here. "Fine, I admit my words were a bit exaggerated. So that my good wife Meng Qi doesn't get worried, starting today, I will become someone who subdues others through kindness," swore Long Chen. "Well, do your best then. Taking it easier is good," comforted Meng Qi. She didn't want to change Long Chen, but she did hope for a more peaceful life. This point was a bit different between men and women. Men wanted stimulation, but while women also liked stimulation, they would also feel worry and fear. "Don't worry, I'll take it a bit easier." Long Chen nodded. He knew Meng Qi only said this for his own good, as his current killing intent was indeed too strong. He had killed too many people in the immemorial path and eastern wasteland. Once he fought others, his killing intent would erupt instinctively. Meng Qi hoped he would reserve himself and use his rationality to suppress his desire for slaughter. She didn't want his desire for killing to overpower his rationality. Last time, with her advice, Long Chen had decided not to exterminate the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path. However, she was worried Long Chen would return to that cruel path bit by bit as he was forced by external pressure. So she took great pains to warn him. Seeing that Long Chen could still open-mindedly accept her opinion in front of everyone, she was gratified. Long Chen was still the old Long Chen. His original heart hadn't changed, which was the most gratifying thing for her. The Eastern Wasteland's Yu Zifeng. When Yu Zifeng walked up, quite a few people let out startled cries. He's actually not a celestial. When they tested his heavenly Tao energy, the testing device didn't light up at all. This was something even more shocking than the rank 5 celestial. If he wasn't even a celestial, how could he possess such power? Previously, he had almost killed a rank 4 celestial in one blow. Later, Xie Wei's jaw had been broken by Long Chen, causing him to lose face. However, Xie Wei had already been tested. He was a rank 4 celestial with a dark gold spirit blood and mid-Xian tier metal energy. He was clearly a powerful expert. But such a strong person had almost been killed in one blow by Yu Zifeng. Many people thought Yu Zifeng had been hiding his power and was actually a terrifying rank 5 celestial. But now that the truth revealed itself, everyone was shocked. They were unable to accept this result. Congratulations, junior apprentice brother. The Shintian Dao Sect's gates are already open for you. Suddenly, Mu Qingshuan's voice rang out, causing quite a few people's eyes to turn red. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.